Today's date is October 10th, 2017. The time on the monitor is 9:39. This marks the start of the deposition of Steve Kinsey in the matter of Spotlight on Coastal Corruption versus Steve Kinsey et al. For the Superior Court of the State of California, County of San Diego. Case number 37-00-00-8494-CU-MC-CTL. We are located at 711 Grand Avenue, Suite 120, San Rafael, California. My name is Diana Phil Sharma on behalf of American Legal Video Solutions. I have been retained by the counsel for the plaintiffs, Briggs Law Corporation. Can all attorneys present please introduce yourselves, starting with the questioning attorney?
I'm Corey Briggs.
Joel Jacobs.
Lauren Packard.
The court reporter may now administer the oath.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Kinsey.
Good morning.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Stephen Kinsey, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-K-I-N-S-E-Y. I go by Steve quite often.
Okay. Have you ever had your deposition taken before?
Once.
How long ago was that?
6 months ago.
Okay. To make sure that today goes as smoothly as possible, let me go over a few guidelines.
Please.
You were just administered an oath by the court reporter as if you were in court in front of a judge or a jury, so you're obligated to tell the truth under penalty of perjury. That means that you need to make sure that you understand my question before you answer it. If you answer the question, we'll assume that you understood it. When we're done today, the court reporter is going to type up your testimony in a booklet. You'll be provided a copy to review. You can make any corrections to your testimony, and then you'll sign it under penalty of perjury. If for some reason you make changes to your testimony, though, I or Mr. Jacobs or anybody else could comment on your changes, and that could affect your credibility in front of the trier of fact. So it's very important that you wait, make sure you understand my question, think about the answer, and then give the answer so that you don't have to make any of those corrections. Do you understand that?
I do.
It's also important that you give verbal, oral answers today in response to questions, as opposed to what we sometimes do informally, like shrug our shoulders, nod our head, roll our eyes, make grunts and groans, things like that. The court reporter can't interpret the nonverbal communication. So if we go along today and get in a rhythm and we loosen up and are not giving good responses, I'll say, is that a yes or is that a no? I don't mean to be bullying you. I just want to make sure there's a clean record for the court reporter to give you to review when we're done. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay. Today is not meant to be a marathon. If at any point you need to take a break, get fresh air, use the restroom, talk to your attorney, just finish the question that's on the table. I'll be more than happy to take a break to accommodate you. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Another thing that's important, we're doing a pretty good job so far, is not talking over one another. The court reporter can only type down one person at a time. Sometimes things get a little exciting and people are talking over one another. We need to try to avoid that so that we have a clean transcript with questions, answers, and any objections, but so things are stated, not interrupted. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Today I may ask you whether you understand, strike that, I may ask you to give me an answer that requires you to estimate perhaps duration, amount, number, size, things of that sort. And if you know the answer, you should give it. If you're not certain about the answer, I'm entitled to your best estimate. But if you don't know, I don't want you to guess. So when we get to subjects that may require you to guess versus give an estimate, I'm going to give you an example so you understand the difference. If I were to say, Mr. Kinsey, how long is the table we're sitting at? You would say, based on life experience and my use of a tape measure over the years, whatever, probably 7 to 8 feet long. But if I were to ask you how long my dining room table is, you'd say, beats the heck out of me, I've never seen it before. Do you understand the difference?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good, then let's jump right in. you can, but I have,
Okay,
this time I have a different
okay.
system. I have letters for some background stuff and then numbers when we get to the meat of the deposition, okay?
Okay, I mean, we can do it any way you like, as long as it's really clear on the record.
It
where
will be
you are.
clear, and we actually put tabs on them for you, okay?
I just need time to mark it in the transcript.
Absolutely. Mr. Kinsey, we're doing your deposition today. I'll show you marked as Exhibit A is a deposition notice. This notice shows October 11 at 11 a.m., but we actually moved it informally to today. Other than the date, have you seen that deposition notice before?
I'm uncertain whether I saw this, but I did see a deposition notice for the correct date.
Okay. Did you look at the deposition notice at the documents that it asks you to bring?
I relied upon my counsel to confirm for me what I would do, and I took actions accordingly to the extent that they are consistent with the things that you asked for here. Then the answer would be yes.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. When you reviewed the deposition notice that you reviewed, did you turn past the first page to read all the categories of documents that were listed?
Yes.
Okay. Did you look for any of the documents described in the depo notice?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you look for those documents?
I looked for those documents in my personal files. I also looked in all of my email files.
Going back to January 1 of 2013?
I went through all files without any respect for date. So
Okay.
some were as late as 2007.
Okay. And did you find any responsive documents?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
So you do not have any possession, custody, or control of any of the documents described in the deposition notice, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. How many email accounts have you had since January 1 of 2013?
I've had 3 email accounts.
What were they?
There was Steve Kinsey at marincounty.org,
Okay.
Steve Kinsey at Alta Planning, excuse me, I have 4. Steve Kinsey at Alta Planning, which I began in April of this year, which is my professional account. And I had skwestmarin at yahoo.com, which was my personal account. And for a brief period of time, I had civicnit at gmail.com, which began at the beginning of this year and hasn't, it continues to exist, but it's an inactive account.
Did you ever have an email account through the California Coastal Commission?
You're correct. I did have one, although it was painfully difficult for me to participate in it. It was set up, I believe, by the commission. We were encouraged to use it. It took me months before I asked for assistance to figure out how to get into it. So I had a very brief experience of using it. I did not use it regularly in any way, but I did attempt for perhaps a 2-month period to recognize that it existed.
When was that?
Trying to think. That would have been in the, I believe that would have been in the fall of 2016. I can't be more certain as to which month,
Okay.
but I do remember being trained by a Coastal Commission staff member as to how to get into it, and I began to use it on that occasion and I believe one other occasion.
So a couple months toward the end of 2016, is that fair?
As best I can recall, that is correct.
Okay. And you haven't deleted any emails going back to January 1 of 2013 that are described in the deposition notice, have you?
That is correct.
Okay. I'll take that from you. I'm going to show you an exhibit we'll mark as B. For the record, B are objections to the deposition depo notice for Steve Kinsey. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No, I do not.
Okay. I'll take it from you. I'll show you an exhibit we'll mark as C. For the record, Exhibit C is a deposition subpoena that my office issued to the California Coastal Commission in November of 2016. Do you recognize Exhibit C, sir?
I do not, but, you know, in terms of recognition, but I do know that at the time of receipt of any paperwork or electronic versions of that I did read them and respond to them through counsel.
Okay. Do you understand that this subpoena was not served on you? It was served on the Coastal Commission?
I do not understand that.
Okay, so this is a subpoena that was served by my office on the Coastal Commission. Does it now look familiar to you, or is it unfamiliar to you?
It remains unfamiliar.
Okay. I'll show you an exhibit we've marked as D. For the record, D are the Coastal Commission's objections to the subpoena that I just showed you. Do you recognize Exhibit D, sir?
I do not.
Okay. What's your home address?
Well, my home address is, could I ask what you would want my home address for?
Yeah, in case you ever need to be served with something.
We can accept service.
Well, not necessarily after post-judgment or if we need to get you personally. We're entitled to know where you live.
You have my post office box.
Which is?
Post office box 81, Forest Knolls, California, 94933.
Okay. What city do you live in?
Forest Knolls.
What street do you live on?
I live on Arroyo Road.
Okay. Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
What high school?
Concord High School,
When?
1970.
And did you go to college?
Yes.
Which college?
Arizona State University.
Did you graduate there?
Yes.
With what degree?
Degree, Bachelor of Arts in Architecture.
Any school after your undergraduate?
Not any graduate programs.
Do you hold any professional licenses or certificates?
No.
Okay. After graduating with your architecture degree, what was your profession?
Well, it's not over, but I used my degree and my skills for building design and planning, and I had my own business, combination from 1970. I worked for architects for several years. When I moved to California in 1978, I began my own business, Sylvester's Design Build, and in the 1980s, about 1985, I began a partnership under the name Design Build Alliance. I did receive a California General Contractor's license in the 1980, I believe it was, 1979, 1980, and utilized that for my design build practice until I was elected to office in 1996, and I became a Marin County Board of Supervisors member. Continued that through 2016, and I'm currently employed by Alta Planning and Design, doing primarily transportation planning, but also town design, urban design.
Other than being elected to the Marin County Board of Supervisors, have you ever been an elected official?
No.
Have you ever been a public official apart from being a Marin County supervisor?
Well, yes. I served 18 years on the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. I served 6 years as a California Coastal Commissioner. I served for a period of time as an alternate Coastal Commissioner before that. I served a very brief period of time in the Sonoma-Marin Area Rail Transit Board of Supervisors. And then there are a number of other responsibilities, the Marin County Transit District, the Transportation Authority of Marin, in which I served in various capacities. I don't know if you want me to try to be more specific.
No, that's helpful. When did you first become a California Coastal Commissioner?
I do not recall, but I would think that it was in 2011, probably, that I was appointed. I'd have to verify. I can check that, but I don't know that. It's something in that vicinity.
That's okay. And when did you stop being a California Coastal Commissioner?
I ceased after early February of 2017.
Okay. So roughly 2011 to 2017.
Right. And as I said, that prior to that, I did serve a period of time as an alternate previous to that. I don't recall. It was a fairly infrequent occasion in which I was asked to attend on behalf of Commissioner Mike Riley.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the term exhaust remedies or exhaustion of remedies? Have you ever heard that term before?
I may have heard the term, but I'm not conversant with it.
Do you understand that you have asserted an affirmative defense in this lawsuit based on my client's alleged failure to exhaust remedies?
Could you restate that?
Would you please read him the question?
Do you understand that you have alleged an affirmative defense in this lawsuit based on my client's alleged failure to exhaust remedies?
I have relied on counsel's advice as to how to respond to this litigation. I believe, as I think about it, that I can understand what that implies.
So are you aware that you've asserted an exhaustion defense in this case? Yes or no?
I'm going to ask counsel, is that...
Either it's something you know or you don't. If you know, you should say that you know. If you don't know, you should say you don't know.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a general understanding of what is required in order for a party to exhaust remedies before the Coastal Commission?
I'm going to object that the question, and if the line of questioning is anything like it was at Mr. Howell's deposition, is inappropriate to ask of a witness in a deposition under Rifkin versus Superior Court, and I'm going to instruct the witness not to testify about his understanding of how the doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies would apply to this case.
Well, I didn't ask you to apply anything to this case. I just want to know whether you have an understanding of what the doctrine requires.
No.
You don't have an understanding?
I just said no.
Okay. Do you have an understanding that if a party wants to sue to challenge a Coastal Commission decision, that the party is usually required to inform the Coastal Commission before the final decision is made about the problems that the decision has? Do you have that understanding generally?
I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer. He's not here to provide legal analysis.
I'm not asking for his legal analysis. I want to know what he understands as when he was sitting as a coastal commissioner. He's asserted the defense. If he doesn't have any idea how it works, that may be of interest to the judge or the jury.
Witness is instructed not to answer.
So have you, is it your understanding as a commissioner that parties who sue the Coastal Commission over decisions are required to inform the commission before the decision is made about the concerns they have with the project?
Witness is instructed not to answer.
Okay, is the witness going to take his counsel's advice? And before you answer that, let me make something clear. You've asserted an affirmative defense of failure to exhaust by my client. I'm trying to get information about that defense, factual information. I don't want your legal reasoning. I do want factual information. And your counsel is instructing you not to answer, which means I will have to go to the judge and get an order that his objections are baseless, and then we will be back up here to do this again. When we come next time, the tab will be on you, because I will be asking the judge to order that you pay all of the travel costs, all of the attorney's fees, all of the costs for the court reporters, all of the costs for the hotel stays, the whole kit and caboodle, for your refusal to answer basic factual questions. I just want to make sure you understand that that is what is on the table before you tell me that you're going to take your attorney's advice and not answer the question.
The instruction stands.
I will rely on the advice of counsel.
Have you ever had, when you were sitting as a commissioner, ever had members of the public come to the commission and tell you about the concerns they had with a proposed project?
Yes.
Was that, generally speaking, a rare occurrence, a frequent occurrence? How would you characterize it?
And just to clarify, you're asking whether those concerns were raised at public meetings or privately?
Public meetings.
Right. It was a regular occurrence at Coastal Commission meetings.
Do you have an understanding of why people came to the Coastal Commission to tell you that they had concerns about projects?
Yes.
What's your understanding of why they were doing it?
My understanding is that the purpose of the public hearings was to allow for a diverse array of opinions to be expressed to the Commission in advance of any decision that the Commission might make on matters that were before us.
Did you also have an understanding that part of the reason for allowing people to testify about their concerns was so that the Commission could at least be alerted to potential problems and avoid them if possible?
Yes.
Okay. If a member of the public was unaware of a problem with the project, there was nothing in the staff report describing the problem, there was nothing of common knowledge that would allow the member of the public to understand the problem, but you as a coastal commissioner were personally aware of the problem, would you expect that member of the public to be able to call your attention to the problem?
I object that that's an incomplete hypothetical and calls for speculation.
But you can answer.
I don't recall a situation like that, so it would be speculation on my part. As I understand your question, you're saying if I was aware of a situation that a member of the public might consider to be problematic or would consider to be problematic, but it wasn't addressed in the staff report and it wasn't addressed, I guess, by any member of the staff, and it wasn't something that the public was aware of, would I understand that that situation occurred? Is that what you're really
I want to know whether you would expect that person to still call your attention to problems that he or she didn't know about.
Same objections?
Yeah. I can't understand it, but I think sort of what I would say is
Well,
that...
if you don't understand it, you shouldn't
Okay.
speculate. But if you
I
understand
appreciate
the
that.
question, you can answer it,
Yeah,
you should.
Yeah. I can't envision that situation at this time.
Would you expect somebody who's unaware of a problem to call your attention to the problem if the person's unaware of it?
Also calls for speculation.
I'm sorry, what was your answer? Your attorney?
My answer was no, based on your question of if a person didn't know of something, would I expect them to bring that to my attention? And my answer would be no.
Okay. Have you ever heard the term ex parte communication?
Yes.
Do you have an understanding of what an ex parte communication is?
Yes.
What is your understanding of an ex parte communication?
My understanding of an ex parte communication is a communication that's either oral or written on matters that pertain to a subject, in which, in this instance, let me go back and just say my understanding of ex parte communication is based on my service as a California Coastal Commissioner. I'm not an attorney. I hadn't used the term before. And so my understanding is really embedded in my understanding of my duties as a Coastal Commissioner. And it would be in matters under the Coastal Commission's jurisdiction if I had oral or written communications with an individual pertaining to matters that are within the jurisdiction but outside of a public hearing.
Okay. And do you have an understanding about whether ex parte communications must be disclosed before they cease to be ex parte communications?
Yes.
What's your understanding?
My understanding is that they need to be disclosed in advance of the public hearing.
Okay. And if they're not disclosed, do you understand that you are prohibited as a Coastal Commissioner from participating in the decision?
I do understand that.
Okay. When did you develop that understanding? Was it before 2013?
I developed that understanding upon reading the Coastal Act at the time in which I took office.
Okay, so sometime around 2011.
I believe that's when I took office, yes. That
Okay.
would be correct.
And do you have an understanding that over the years the Coastal Act gets amended here and there?
Yes.
Was it your practice to read the amendments to the Coastal Act each year as the legislature made them?
I would say that it was my practice to scan, but not necessarily thoroughly read them to understand the substance. And if it felt as though something was relevant, particularly relevant, I would read it at greater depth.
Did that include amendments to the ex parte communication rules?
I don't recall that right now.
Okay. Did you ever receive any training as a commissioner on the ex parte rules and the disclosure requirements?
Well, you can answer yes or no, but I would instruct you not to testify about the substance of any training that you received from counsel that was outside of a public hearing.
Correct. Okay. So I do recall a public hearing in which an agenda item did take us through the ex parte rules and try to educate us more specifically about our responsibilities under the Coastal Act.
Do you recall when that public training occurred?
I don't recall specifically when it occurred,
Was it
but it was during the term of my time as a commissioner.
Was it during the 2013 or 2014 period?
I don't recall.
Okay. I don't want to know what lawyers have told you privately. Not interested in that. But I do want to know whether you've had any other training on ex parte communications or the disclosure requirements outside of a public setting. I just want to know whether you've had the training.
I haven't had other training outside of a public hearing beyond whatever self-training went into my reading of the Act.
Okay. Have you, do you understand that ex parte communications must be disclosed as a general rule?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand that there are requirements that govern what must be disclosed?
Yes.
Do you understand that there are requirements regarding the timing of when ex parte communications must be disclosed?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever failed to disclose an ex parte communication?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
To the best of my knowledge, it would be on 2 occasions.
What was the first occasion?
First occasion was a field visit that I made to the Banning Ranch in December, I believe, of 2015. And second occasion would have been at another time during a commission meeting, I don't recall the date, in which at the conclusion of a commission meeting, I was asked to attend with our vice chair a meeting related to Banning Ranch, specifically related to scheduling for rehearing, and I simply did not disclose that. It was disclosed by my colleague, my vice chair,
But you didn't
and
disclose.
including disclosure of my attendance.
But
That I did not.
You didn't disclose either one of those ex parte communications?
I subsequently disclosed the field trip that I took, but not within the prescribed time for disclosure.
Why did you not make a timely disclosure?
It was not premeditated to not disclose it. At the time that I took the field trip, it had been my expectation that I would be doing that independently as an individual. But when I arrived at the site, I was required to meet with and was briefly toured a portion of the site and then allowed to be on my own. It's not an excuse, but it was during a holiday period. I had informed my executive director and had discussed it and had been encouraged to go forward with that visit, and I felt as though I was communicating with my staff, but it was ultimately, I understand that it was a requirement that I disclose it. Eventually I did disclose it. At the same time, the earlier one, once I realized that it had occurred on more than one occasion, I recused myself from that matter.
Before you recused yourself, had you participated in any, had you attended any public meetings where Banning Ranch was on the docket?
I believe that I attended a meeting where some aspect of the Banning Ranch was discussed. I think it was related to permit fees.
Okay, so let me make sure I have the timing right. Generally speaking, you had an ex parte communication that wasn't disclosed. You subsequently were on the dais during a Coastal Commission meeting when an aspect of Banning Ranch was discussed. You did not disclose the communication at that time or prior thereto. After that public meeting, you then made the disclosure. Do I have the sequence correct?
I believe you do, yes.
Okay. When you are on the dais as a coastal commissioner, you are conscious that you're up on the dais, correct?
Sure.
You've never fallen asleep at the dais, correct?
I have not.
Okay. Though I'm sure there have been presentations where you wanted to, but you're awake and you are conscious that you are sitting at the dais as a member of the Coastal Commission, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you an exhibit. We'll mark as E for the record. E is a copy of a ruling in a case called Friends of the Canyon versus California Coastal Commission. It's a 2015 case of Orange County Superior Court. Mr. Kinsey, have you ever heard of that lawsuit, the Friends of the Canyon lawsuit?
Yes, I have.
Okay. You were on the commission when the lawsuit was filed and litigated, correct?
I was on it certainly when it was filed, and I believe, I'm not absolutely certain as to when it was adjudicated, but
The ruling came in September of 2016.
okay, then yes, I was on the commission at that
And
time.
the Friends of the Canyon lawsuit was topic of closed session meetings of the Coastal Commission on multiple occasions, correct?
Excuse me?
The Friends of the Canyon lawsuit was a topic of closed session meetings of the Coastal
Yes.
Commission on multiple occasions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were present in closed session for those?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to take a look at first of all, have you ever seen this ruling before today?
I do not, no, I have not seen this ruling. I participated in closed sessions and may be aware of some aspects of it, but I have not seen this ruling.
Did you know before today that the Coastal Commission lost that lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay. If you would turn to page 9. At the bottom, the court wrote, "It is evident from the administrative record that 6 commissioners participated in the hearing and voted on the project without properly disclosing ex parte communications. Those commissioners are Cox, Howell, Kinsey, McClure, Turnbull Sanders, and Vargas." Do you see that?
I do.
Do you have any reason to disagree with the judge's conclusion there?
That also calls for the application of law to facts. On that basis, I'll instruct the witness not to answer.
Well, I want to know whether, do you have any information that you properly disclosed the ex parte communications that were subject of the Friends of the Canyon lawsuit?
It's essentially the same question, so it's the same instruction.
You can answer.
And as your attorney, I'm instructing you not to answer the question.
I will take the advice of my attorney.
I want to make sure your counsel understands that you can instruct the witness not to answer questions about privilege. I get that, but I'm not aware of any case that allows you to tell the witness not to answer questions that you think are basically calling for a legal conclusion.
Then you should read Rifkin versus Superior Court, where the Court of Appeal upheld an instruction not to answer a contention interrogatory that was asked in deposition, asking for all facts supporting a legal conclusion.
That's not what I've asked. I'm not asking contention questions. I want to know whether the witness, well, I've stated my point. Mr. Kinsey, did you properly disclose your ex parte communications on the Friends of the Canyon matter?
I believe that
and-
I disclosed properly my ex parte requirements.
And what was the mechanism for the disclosure? Was it oral or in writing?
It was oral.
Okay. Do you recall?
It was oral that I expressed that my ex partes were on file.
Were your ex partes in fact on file?
I do not know, but I believe them to be.
Take a look at page 10 if you would. In the middle of that page, in the full paragraph, it says, "The most diligent individual combing through the Commission's official file for the project before the January 8, 2015 hearing would have seen that Commissioner Cox's disclosure form was on file, but invalid. That same person would not have discovered that Commissioners Howell, Kinsey, McClure, Turnbull, Sanders, and Vargas had ex parte communications the month before the hearing. Do you see that statement?
I see that statement.
Does that in any way refresh your recollection about whether your disclosures were on file before the January 8, 2015 hearing?
I do not recall the specifics, but I believed at the time that I was correct in stating that my ex partes were on file.
Okay. At the end of that paragraph, the court wrote, Commissioners Kinsey, McClure, Turnbull, Sanders, and Vargas did speak up at the hearing, but the oral disclosures violated the statutory mandate for a timely written disclosure filed with the Commission in advance of the hearing. Does that sentence ring a bell at all about whether you made timely written disclosures?
No.
Okay. As you sit here today, do you believe that all of your disclosures related to the project that was the subject of the Friends of the Canyon lawsuit were timely?
I respect the opinion of the court which looked into this.
Do you have any reason to believe the court factually erred?
I don't have a judgment about the court, but I do have questions about whether my ex partes on this and other situations were properly administered.
What are those questions?
What happens? Were they properly date stamped? Do they exist? Were they properly filed? If they occurred during hearings, were they lost or misplaced? But beyond that, I don't have an opinion. I respect the judgment of the court.
What was your practice between January 1 of 2013 and the time you left the commission? What was your practice for submitting ex parte disclosures?
Well, I made every attempt to timely write down or transcribe electronically an ex parte communication and sign it and submit it. I relied on my administrative assistant, Lisa Cross, in many instances to help me prepare those, and she often provided me with a copy of the ex parte in a folder that I would take to commission meetings.
Is Lisa Cross your assistant at the Coastal Commission or in private practice?
She was my administrative assistant at the County of Marin.
Okay. She's not a Coastal Commission employee, correct?
No.
Okay. And she never was a Coastal Commission employee, correct?
No.
Okay. How did you get your written disclosures into the official record of the Coastal Commission?
The practice of filing my ex partes occurred in several ways. There would be times that I would hand write an ex parte using the form or a blank copy of the form, sign it and mail it. There were times when I would sign a copy and that it would be scanned and electronically submitted. And I believe that there were times, I can't completely recall whether or not there was a different format, but I think there was in a different situation once a website was set up by the commission to send it to executive staff. But under any circumstance, I would add my signature to the description and forward it by mail or by electronic version to the coastal staff.
When did the website portal become available for submitting disclosures?
I don't know when it became available, but I do know that in the final year that I was on the commission, there were efforts to get commissioners to utilize that website.
So to your knowledge, it was during your last year on the commission when the portal became available?
Yes. It may have been before that, but I wouldn't, my recollection of it is that that was brought to my attention and the attention of the commission during my final year.
And did you use the website portal to submit ex partes?
You know, I believe that I did, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. As I said, I had a difficult time wanting to take on one more email account, and so for months I simply didn't choose to use that. I didn't think of it as necessary, so I would say that most of my ex partes were delivered from my county website to the commission staff. And after training about the use of it, I had one sort of substantial effort and maybe a couple other weaker efforts to utilize the website, to go into the website to see what was there.
And when you say most ex parte disclosures were submitted by your county website, do you mean your Marin County email account?
Either by mail or by scanning, and again, I did not do that, so I'm presuming that to be the form in which Lisa Cross would transmit my documents. I relied on her support.
So, as a general practice, you were not the one who would email your ex parte disclosures. Lisa Cross would do that for you, correct?
I would say that's a general practice. I can't say that that was 100% of the time. There may have been occasions in which I actually forwarded the document, but as my primary mechanism, I relied on my staff for administrative support, and my administrative assistant was, I valued and trusted her, and still do, and allowed her to take those kind of responsibilities.
And would Lisa CC you on the emails that she was submitting to the Coastal Commission?
I can't recall whether she would or not, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me if she did, but I don't recall it, and I can't, you know, I mean, one of the things that I think is a challenge for an elected official is the amount of emails that we have to manage, and so I can't be as specific as you may wish that I could be.
If she were CCing you, she would CC you at your Yahoo account or at your Marin County account?
At my Marin County account.
Okay. So, if I understand correctly, there was a website portal for roughly a year when ex partes could be submitted. Email through Lisa Cross was the primary way you submitted ex parte disclosures, but you also would sometimes mail them or deliver them in person at commission meetings, correct?
Correct.
Okay. For the website, did the use of the website for submitting disclosures coincide with the couple of months in late 2016 when you also were trying to use the Coastal Commission email account?
Could you just, you're saying, I'm going to ask you to clarify the question. You're saying during late September when I was trying to use the email account, was I also trying to file ex partes through that account? Is that what you're asking?
I'm just trying to see whether the two different things actually coincided or overlapped.
I don't recall, and I don't recall whether Lisa Cross was ever informed and trained by myself or others to utilize that account, but so I can't be specific.
Okay. When you would mail your ex parte disclosures, would anybody, do you know whether anybody kept a receipt to prove that you put the disclosure in the mail?
I doubt that anyone did. I don't know that for a fact.
Do you know whether anyone took any steps to confirm the Coastal Commission's receipt of your mailed ex parte disclosures?
No, I don't think that anyone did, but I don't have any direct knowledge of that.
Do you know whether anyone took steps to confirm that your email submission of ex parte disclosures were received by the Coastal Commission?
No,
You don't know, or?
I do not know.
Okay. Do you know whether anybody took steps to confirm that your website submissions of ex parte disclosures were received by the Commission?
I do not know.
Okay. And for items that you delivered personally, did you do anything to confirm receipt?
No.
Okay. And I mean receipt by the Coastal Commission. You did nothing to confirm receipt? You didn't keep received stamped copies of documents that you
No.
gave? Okay. I'm going to show you an exhibit we'll mark as F. For the record, F is a September 26, 2016 letter that I sent to Mr. Kinsey, among others. Does this letter look familiar to you, sir?
The letter itself doesn't strike me as familiar, but I do know that whenever anything related to this particular litigation has arrived, that I have read the matter and attempted to be fully compliant with the requests.
You haven't deleted or otherwise destroyed any ex parte disclosures.
I have not.
Objection,
Excuse me.
vague as to time. Are you asking since this letter or at any time?
Ever.
I would say I have never attempted to avoid any knowledge of ex partes. I have not maintained a file of ex partes. I felt that I was complying with reporting requirements, and that was the limit to which I paid attention to ex partes.
Okay, so you haven't deleted any emails since this lawsuit was filed? No?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I'm going to show you an exhibit we've marked as letter G. Letter G.
Do you want these back?
Yeah, you can give me. Generally speaking, once we move on.
Here's F. I'll give you that back too.
Thanks. Letter G is plaintiff's first set of requests for admissions, set 1 to Mr. Kinsey. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No.
Never seen it before today?
I wouldn't say that, but I don't recognize it.
Okay. I'll take it from you. I'll show you an exhibit marked letter H. Letter H is defendant Steve Kinsey's response to plaintiff's first set of requests for admissions. Do you recognize that document, sir?
Generally speaking, I will have a difficult time recognizing individual documents. However, in the course of the litigation, I have read and responded to the best of my ability to every request.
Why don't you turn to page 6 of Exhibit H and tell me whether you recognize the signature on that page.
I do.
Does that help refresh your recollection as to whether you've seen Exhibit H before?
Well, I will, yes, I will confirm that I reviewed this at the time that I placed my signature on there. So
And-
if that's what you are trying to ascertain is, am I taking responsibility for the information that's within this, the answer is yes.
Okay, and everything in Exhibit H is true, correct?
Yes.
show you an exhibit marked letter I. Exhibit I is
Oops.
plaintiff's first set of form interrogatories to Mr. Kinsey. You recognize that document, sir?
No.
Okay. I'll show you an exhibit marked letter J. Letter J is defendant Steve Kinsey's responses to plaintiff's form interrogatory set 1. Recognize that document, sir?
My answer will be the same, that on all of these documents, while I would not recognize
No,
them
he's asking whether you recognize it.
today, I would say no.
Take a look at page 5.
Mhm.
Earlier in the document. Do you recognize the signature on that page?
I do,
Is it yours?
yes.
So does that help refresh your recollection as to whether you read this document before you signed it?
Well, as to the question, as I said, whether I recognize it or not, I do know that at the time that I would put my signature to anything, that I had fully reviewed what was in front of me and considered to be true and accurate.
Okay. So when you signed the verification, everything in Exhibit J was true, correct?
To the best of my ability,
Okay. To the best of your ability, yes?
yes.
I'll show you Exhibit K. Exhibit K is Special Interrogatory Set 1 from Plaintiff to Steve Kinsey. Do you recognize Exhibit K, sir?
No.
I'll show you Exhibit L. For the record, Exhibit L is Defendant Steve Kinsey's responses to Plaintiff's Special Interrogatory Set 1. You recognize that document, sir?
No.
Take a look at page 7. You recognize the signature on that page?
Yes.
Is it your signature?
Yes.
Did you read this document before you signed the verification?
Yes.
Everything in the document is true, correct?
Yes.
I'll show you Exhibit M. Exhibit M is Plaintiff's Demand for Production and Inspection of Documents and Other Things, Set 1. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No.
I'll show you an exhibit marked letter N. For the record, letter N is Defendant Steve Kinsey's responses to plaintiff's request for production of documents set 1. Recognize that document, sir?
No.
Take a look at page 4.
Yes.
Recognize your signature on that page?
I do.
Did you read this document before you signed your verification?
Yes.
Everything in the document is true, correct?
Yes.
I'll show you an exhibit. We'll mark letter O. Letter O is Defendant Steve Kinsey's amended responses to plaintiff's request for production of documents set 1. Recognize that document, sir?
No.
Take a look at page 5, please. Recognize the signature on page 5?
I do.
Is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
Did you read Exhibit O before you signed the verification form?
Yes, I did.
Is everything in Exhibit O true?
Yes. Given the number of documents you're seeing, why I don't recall them as a non-attorney.
I'll show you an exhibit marked letter P. Exhibit P is Defendant Steve Kinsey's second amended responses to plaintiff's request for production of documents set 1. Recognize that document, sir?
No.
Take a look at page 5, please. Is that your signature on page 5?
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit P before you signed your verification form?
Yes.
Is everything in Exhibit P true?
Correct. Yes.
I'd like to suggest a break sometime in the next few minutes. Doesn't have to be now.
Let's just do it now.
Okay.
No problem. You're mic'd up, so take the mic off. Let's go off the record.
We're off the record at 10:40. We are back on the record. The time is 10:54.
Mr. Kinsey, did you want to clarify something from
I
before
did.
the break?
Yeah, upon advice of counsel, I want to clarify a situation. When you asked if I deleted any emails, I have not deleted any emails since the Coastal Commission lawsuit was filed, but I can't say with certainty what I did prior to that time as it related to emails.
What was your practice prior to the filing of this lawsuit with regard to deleting emails?
Generally speaking, I delete emails on a regular basis because I don't want to have emails that I haven't. So generally speaking, I would delete emails on a regular basis.
Did that include emails concerning Coastal Commission business?
Yes.
Did you do anything to make a record of your commission-related emails and give them to the commission for long-term preservation?
No.
Did it ever occur to you to do that?
No.
Do you understand that a public official's emails concerning public business is a public record generally?
Yes.
Is there some reason you thought it was okay to delete commission-related emails before this lawsuit was filed?
Argumentative.
You can answer.
You can answer. Go ahead.
The kinds of, I would not delete information that was germane to a project. In fact, I didn't receive emails that were germane to a project, but I would receive emails germane to scheduling.
Okay, you didn't delete any emails related to an ex parte communication?
Ever.
Okay. So whatever emails existed concerning ex parte communications, even before this lawsuit, they've not been deleted or otherwise lost or
That would be
destroyed?
correct.
Correct?
To the best of my knowledge, that's
And-
correct.
And please wait for him to finish asking the question before you start your answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you read him my entire question?
I can't, because when
I
he starts
apologize.
talking, he's under oath, not you, so I have to stop you and start writing.
Gotcha. Can you read at least the part of what I said? It'll remind me to how I wanted to end it.
So whatever emails existed concerning ex parte communications even before the,
Great. So whatever emails existed concerning ex parte communications before this lawsuit was filed, those emails have not been deleted or otherwise destroyed by you, correct?
Correct.
And you're not aware of anybody else deleting or otherwise destroying them, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you an exhibit marked as Q. For the record, Q is defendant's privilege log in response to plaintiff's request for production of documents. Set 1. Does exhibit Q look familiar to you, sir?
No.
Take a look at the second page where you see 8 items listed. Do you recognize any of those items? And I'm not asking you what they say, I just want to know whether you recognize any of the 8 listed items.
I don't specifically recognize these, no, but I recognize individuals.
But you don't recognize the documents as they're described on that sheet, correct?
Let me see. No.
No, you don't recognize them, or that I'm incorrect and you do recognize them?
I do not recognize them.
Let me show you an exhibit marked as letter R. For the record, R is plaintiff's second set of admission requests to Steve Kinsey. You recognize that document, sir?
No.
Actually, I'm going to have you. I'll take it from you for now. Show you an exhibit marked letter S. Exhibit S is defendant Steve Kinsey's responses to plaintiff's request for admission set 2. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No.
Turn to the last page, please. Do you recognize the signature on the verification page?
Yes.
Is it your signature?
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit S before you signed the verification page?
Yes.
Is everything in Exhibit S true?
To the best of my knowledge.
Showing exhibit marked letter T. Exhibit T is defendant Steve Kinsey's amended responses to plaintiff's request for admission set 2. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No.
Take a look at page 8. Tell me whether you recognize your signature on that page.
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit T before you signed the verification page?
Yes.
Is everything in Exhibit T true?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
I'll show you an exhibit marked letter U. Exhibit U is defendant Steve Kinsey's amended responses to plaintiff's request for admission set 2. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No.
Turn to page 8, please. Do you recognize the signature on page 8?
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit U before you signed the verification page?
Yes.
Is everything in Exhibit U true?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
I'm showing exhibit, actually, let's go back to Exhibit R. Sorry about that. I'd like you to take a look at Exhibit R. Do you know who Sarah Wan is? That's S-A-R-A, last name W-A-N.
Yes.
Who is Sarah?
Sorrow is a former coastal commissioner.
Okay. Do you know when she ceased to be a coastal commissioner?
No.
Okay. Does she now lobby before the Coastal Commission? Or let me strike that. Since she stopped being a coastal commissioner, did she then become a lobbyist or an advocate in front of the Coastal Commission?
I don't know.
Have you ever had any ex parte communications with Sarah?
Yes.
How many?
Several. Few.
Several or few?
A few. Which I consider to be the same answer.
So under 10?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who Susan McCabe is?
Yes.
Are you aware of her company called McCabe and Company?
I'm not aware of her company.
Okay. Do you understand her to be a lobbyist at the Coastal Commission?
I don't know the term lobbyist, but I know her to be a representative at the Coastal Commission.
Developers hire her to represent them before the commission, correct?
Applicants, yes.
Okay. Have you ever had an ex parte communication with Susan?
Yes.
How many times?
Many.
What's many? More than 50?
No.
More than 30?
I don't know, but I would say that it would be more than 20, less than 50. That's really my guess.
Have you had any ex parte communications with Susan McCabe that you did not timely disclose?
I don't know.
Is it possible that you did not timely disclose at least one ex parte communication with Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who Donald Schmitz is?
Yes.
You ever had an ex parte communication with Donald?
Yes.
How many?
I would guess it would be less than 2 dozen.
Okay. But more than a dozen?
I don't know.
More than 5?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever failed to make a timely disclosure of an ex parte communication with Donald?
I don't know.
But it's possible?
Yes.
Do you know who David Nish is? N-E-I-S-H.
Yes.
Who is David?
David is a representative for applicants.
Okay. Actually, Don Schmitz is also a representative for applicants, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You've had ex parte communications with David?
Yes.
How many occasions?
I don't know, but I don't know.
More than a dozen?
Yes.
More than 2 dozen?
I don't know, but certainly that might be in the range.
Okay. Have you ever failed to make a timely disclosure of an ex parte communication with David?
I don't know.
But it's possible?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who Jared Ficker is? F-I-C-K-E-R.
Yes.
Who is Jared?
A representative who comes before the commission on behalf of applicants
Okay.
from time to time.
Have you ever had an ex parte communication with Jared?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
Less than 5, perhaps.
Okay. Have you ever failed to timely disclose an ex parte communication with Jared?
I don't know.
It's possible.
Yes.
Do you know who Stanley Lamport is?
Yes.
That's L-A-M-P-O-R-T. Who is Stanley?
Stanley is a representative for applicants, an attorney.
Have you ever had an ex parte communication with Stanley?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I don't know, but I would try to characterize it as on 10 to 15 occasions, perhaps.
Have you ever failed
Maybe
to
less.
Have you ever failed to timely disclose an ex parte communication with Stanley?
I don't know.
But it's possible.
Yes.
Do you know who Andriette Culbertson is? A-N-D-R-I-E-T-T-E-C-U-L-B-E-R-T-S-O-N. Who is Andriette?
She is a representative for applicants and a trail advocate.
Have you ever had an ex parte communication with her?
I believe so. Yes.
On how many occasions?
Less than 5.
Have you ever failed to make a timely disclosure of an ex parte communication with her?
I do not know.
But it's possible.
Yes.
Do you think that members of the public should have to tell you before you make a decision that you've had an ex parte communication that you haven't disclosed?
Are you asking as a legal matter?
No, I'm asking him as a former member of the Coastal Commission whether he thinks that's something that people should be required to do as engaged members of the community.
No.
I'll object, the question is vague.
You understand the question, don't you, sir?
I'd like it repeated.
Can you read the question for him, please?
Do you think that members of the public should have to tell you before you make a decision that you have? Try that again. Do you think that members of the public should have to tell you before you make a decision that you've had an ex parte communication that you haven't disclosed?
And the word should there is vague and ambiguous.
You know what the word should means?
Not always, but I understand it in this context.
Okay. So what's your answer to the question?
No.
Okay. If you would please turn to, within Exhibit R, about 5 or 6 pages in, you'll come to Exhibit 1. There you go.
Mhm.
Take a look at Exhibit 1. It's 4 pages. It's a printout of the Coastal Commission's roster of commissioners website. Does that web page look familiar to you?
Yes.
Have you ever visited that website as a commissioner?
Yes.
How often?
Rarely.
Okay.
A few occasions over 6 years.
Okay. If you would turn to pages 3 and 4 of Exhibit 1 within Exhibit R, do you see at the bottom of page 3 where it says ex parte communication requirements?
Yes.
Have you ever read that portion of the website?
No.
Take a look at the bottom of 3 and 4 and tell me whether the information that's printed there sounds familiar to you.
The information is familiar. The organization and presentation of it is not something I'd seen before.
Okay, but the substance of what's printed at the bottom of pages 3 and 4 is familiar to you, yes?
Yes.
Is it consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules?
Yes.
Okay. Now take a look at Exhibit 2 of Exhibit R, which is another version of the website for the roster of commissioners. Tell me whether you recognize that page.
Yes. I mean, I don't know that I've seen it before, but I recognize it.
Okay. If you now go to the bottom of page 3 and the top of page, actually just the bottom of page 3, does the material in the ex parte communication requirements section look familiar to you?
The information does.
Okay. It is consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now turn to Exhibit 3 of Exhibit R, which is another version of the roster of commissioners. And if you turn to page 4, on the top of page 5, do you see the ex parte communication requirements section?
Yes.
Have you read that section of the website before?
No.
Does the information there look familiar to you?
Yes.
Is it consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules?
Yes.
Okay. I'll turn to Exhibit 4 of Exhibit R, which is another version of the website for coastal commissioners. Have you seen that page before?
I don't recall that.
Turn to the 4th page of that exhibit. Do you see the ex parte communication requirements section?
Yes.
Have you read that language on the website before?
No.
Does the substance of what's printed there look familiar to you?
Yes.
Is it consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules?
Yes.
Take a look at Exhibit 5, which is another version of the Coastal Commissioner website. Does that website look familiar to you, sir?
No.
Turn to page 5 and the very top of page 6. Have you read the language there under ex parte communication requirements before?
Not in this format.
Okay. But the information there looks familiar to you?
Yes.
And it's consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules?
Yes.
Turn to Exhibit 6, please. Do you recognize Exhibit 6 within Exhibit R?
Not specifically, no.
Okay. Can you read those 2 pages for me and let me know when you're done, please?
Okay.
Does the information contained on those 2 pages look familiar to you?
Not in its format, but in its substance.
Okay. And the substance there is consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules while you were a commissioner, correct?
It sharpens my understanding of that.
But does it in any way conflict with your understanding of the rules while you were a commissioner?
It does not conflict.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 7 to Exhibit R. Please read those 2 pages if you would. And let me know when you're done.
Um, Okay.
Do you recognize that document?
Not specifically.
Is the substance of the document familiar to you?
Yes.
Is it consistent with the ex parte disclosure rules while you were a commissioner? Is it consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules
Yes,
while you were a commissioner?
yes.
And did you follow the procedures that are outlined in this memo while you were a commissioner?
Upon receipt of this, I followed the advice contained within.
Did you deviate from the procedures in these 2 pages before you received the document?
I don't know, but I may have, as it relates to the recommendations for documentation, or I should say administration filing. Also, there were times before there wasn't a website for commissioners when these rules would not have applied.
The rules in the 2 pages of Exhibit
Let's see.
7 to Exhibit R didn't apply before the commission had a website for ex parte disclosures? Did I understand you correctly?
Well, no, you did not. I need to read it more closely, but actually, as I look at this now, I consider it to be fully consistent with my understanding.
At all times while you were a coastal commissioner, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is it your understanding that the burden to make a adequate ex parte disclosure is actually on you as the commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. You've never had any reason to believe that you get to delegate that responsibility to anybody else, correct? Take a look at Exhibit 8 to Exhibit R. It's a multi-page PowerPoint presentation. Do you recognize that PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
You recall when you first saw it?
I first saw it at a coastal commission meeting. I don't recall the date.
You were on the dais for the presentation though, correct?
Yes.
Is everything that's in that presentation consistent with your understanding of the ex parte rules that applied while you were a coastal commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. I'll show you an exhibit marked as letter V. Exhibit V is set 2 of plaintiff's form interrogatories to Steve Kinsey. Sir, does that document look familiar to you?
No.
I'll show you an exhibit marked letter W. Letter W is defendant Steve Kinsey's response to plaintiff's form interrogatories set 2. Do you recognize exhibit W, sir?
No.
Take a look at the last page.
Page 3.
It is marked 3, but it's actually the 4th. Do you see your signature on that verification page? Is that your signature?
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit W before you signed the verification page?
Yes.
And is everything in Exhibit W true?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Show you an exhibit marked with the letter X. Exhibit X is defendant Steve Kinsey's amended responses to plaintiff's form interrogatory set 2. Do you see do you recognize that document?
No, not
Do you
specifically.
see your signature on Exhibit 4, or on page 4?
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit X before you signed the verification page?
Yes.
Is everything in Exhibit X true?
Yes. That's my knowledge.
I'll show you an exhibit we've marked with the letter Y. Exhibit Y is Defendant Steve Kinsey's second amended response to plaintiff's form interrogatories. Set 2. Do you recognize that document, sir?
No.
Take a look at page 4, please. Is that your signature on the verification page?
Yes.
Did you read Exhibit Y before you signed the verification page?
Yes.
Is everything in Exhibit Y true?
Yes.
Let's go off the record for a sec.
We are off the record at 11:24. We are back on the record. The time is 12:46.
Mr. Kinsey, you understand that you're still under oath, correct?
Yes.
In a coastal commission proceeding, the ones that would come before you as a coastal commissioner, do you understand that the commission maintains what's known as an official record of the proceedings?
Yes.
Okay. The official record, as I understand it, is posted for the public to see on the Coastal Commission's website where the agenda appears, so that under each item on the agenda there will be a link a few days before the commission meeting where members of the public can download everything that's in the record. Is that your understanding too?
Yes.
Okay. And sometimes the initial link will be updated with supplemental materials closer to the hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Before a commission meeting, how did you get your materials for the meeting? Did you get them from the website, or would they be delivered to you through other means?
Originally, they were delivered by mail. During the course of my time on the commission, we went to an all-electronic version, and that's where I would focus my attention on electronic versions.
Okay. So the record that you have access to as a commissioner is the same record that the public has access to, correct?
I am confident that it is.
Okay. Do you have an understanding of how long after an ex parte communication you have to disclose that communication in writing?
Yes.
What is your understanding?
7 days.
So not more than 7 days after the ex parte communication, you must disclose it in writing and submit that written disclosure into the official record of the Coastal Commission, correct?
Yes.
And what happens if the ex parte communication occurs within 7 days of the upcoming hearing? Is the rule the same, or is it different?
I'm required to announce it on the microphone.
Okay, so your understanding is that if the ex parte communication occurs more than 7 days before a hearing, you disclose it in writing, and that disclosure goes into the official record of the commission. But if the ex parte communication is within 7 days of the hearing, you make the disclosure from the dais on the record, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that was your understanding the entire time you were on the commission?
Yes.
Okay. During the lunch break, you were kind enough to go through the 100 or so exhibits that I wanted to review with you so that we could separate those that you're not familiar with, that don't ring a bell, and try to save a little bit of time. So I'm going to, right now, try to go through those and get those out of the way. During the break, you identified exhibits 2, 8, 9, 61, and 72 as either written disclosures or summaries of your oral disclosures that you don't recognize in any way, shape, or form. Is that correct?
That I didn't recognize on first reading, it may be as we look more closely, I was looking through a number of them, it may be that I'll recall them differently, but that is what you asked me to do.
Okay. Can you just briefly look at those 5 exhibits and tell me whether right now there's anything in there? Well, actually, just take a look at them and let me know when you're done, and I'll ask you a series of questions.
The only well, look at them all. Okay.
Do you recall any of the ex parte communications that are the subject of exhibits 2, 8, 9, 61, and 72?
Well, yes, I do. As I look at them more closely, I do.
Okay.
Aspects of 2 of them.
Which 2?
Ex parte number 2, what initially was confusing to me was the written ex parte was, the handwritten ex parte was not my writing, but the substance is likely to have characterized the meeting, and the signature is mine.
Okay, and then was there another exhibit that...
Yeah, the other exhibit was the item number 72. When I first looked at that, I didn't understand the format and thought it was something that suggested that I had prepared that, but what it appears to be is a transcription of a comment that I made on the microphone at a hearing.
Okay, so looking at exhibits 8, 9, and 61, nothing in those disclosures triggers your memory about the ex parte communications? Let me just be more pointed.
Yeah.
For the 3 ex parte communications in exhibits 8, 9, and 61, do you recall who scheduled those ex partes?
Well, I'm not certain that anyone scheduled ex partes in these cases.
Okay. Do you recall who was present at these ex partes?
I am not certain that in the case of number 61, I do not believe that I do not recall ever having seen this or had any conversation or any communication associated with this. So this one is not something that I'm familiar with.
So exhibit 61, to the best of your knowledge, you're seeing for the first time today, correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
In the case of number 8, I do not recall this, but I do recognize that it appears to have been sent from Gary Giacomini to me. And so I can't recall reading it, I can't recall receiving it, but I have every reason to believe that it did come to my office.
Okay.
I'm sorry, am I marking, are these being marked?
Yes, this one here is 61,
Okay.
and we're now talking about Exhibit 8. So for Exhibit 8, do you recall whether you responded to the emails in Exhibit 8?
I do not recall this, no.
Okay.
So this is something that I'm not familiar with.
Okay, I'll take that from you.
Yep.
And Exhibit 9, do you recall receiving that email?
I see. Let me just look. I do not recall receiving it, no, but it doesn't mean that I didn't.
Okay. Do you know whether you ever forwarded Exhibit 8 or Exhibit 9 to the Coastal Commission to include in the official record for the projects to which they relate?
I don't recall that.
Is it possible that you did not in either case?
It is possible in either case that I did not, although it is also possible that I didn't see him.
Okay. Did anybody at the Coastal Commission have access to your Yahoo email account?
No.
Did anybody at the Coastal Commission have access to your Marin County email account?
Access to my account.
Here, let me rephrase that. Would it be possible for anybody at the Coastal Commission to log in to your
No.
Yahoo account?
No.
Okay. How about into your Marin County account?
No.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at Exhibit 2.
Mhm.
Do you recall the ex parte communication that is the substance of this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. And it says that the ex parte occurred on February 5, 2014. Do you see that?
Yeah, I wouldn't know that that's a 5. That appears to me to either be a 3 or a 13. But
Sometime in February, correct?
yes,
Is that your handwriting?
this is my handwriting, the signature and the dating.
Do you know whose handwriting is above your signature and
I
date?
do not know that.
Was it your practice?
That's why I pulled this out as a separate item.
Was it your practice in February of 2014 to let other people fill out your ex parte disclosure forms?
It was not my practice at any time during my time as a commissioner. Doesn't mean it isn't relevant. I signed this. It is a form. It does appear to characterize a meeting that I had.
Do you have any idea when this form was first received by the Coastal Commission and put into its official record for the project?
I do not.
Does the April 11, 2014 stamp at the top ring a bell?
Not at all.
Okay. Is it possible that this form was not received by the Coastal Commission prior to April 11 of 2014?
It is possible,
Okay.
but it is not certain.
Okay. At any time after February 5 of 2014, were you ever on the dais for the Banning Ranch project?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And would you agree that April 11 is after February 5 by more than 7 days?
Yes.
Do you have any explanation as to why this disclosure form wasn't submitted to the Coastal Commission's official record sooner than April 11?
Assumes facts not testified to.
I'm not certain that the error would be on me or on Coastal Commission administration of this in this particular instance.
Are you aware of any Coastal Commission administration errors regarding any of your ex parte disclosures?
I have not thoroughly examined that, but I have reason to believe that there were occasions in which documentation wasn't properly administered.
What were those occasions?
I do not have specific information to provide you.
Do you have any record at home or back at the office that would help you?
No.
Okay. So,
Please wait until he's finished asking the question.
I apologize.
so you have a hunch that there were mistakes, but you don't have any evidence to confirm mistakes by Coastal Commission administration, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Have you actually done any sort of investigation to try to figure out whether Coastal Commission administration in fact made errors on your ex parte disclosures?
I have not.
Okay. So looking at Exhibit 2 again, it states that David Nish and Mike Riley were with you for the ex parte communication, correct?
Correct.
Was anybody else present that you recall?
I do not recall the specific. I do recall an occasion where I met with Mr. Nish and Mr. Riley. I don't believe there were any other people there.
Do you know how long this particular ex parte communication lasted?
It lasted 15 minutes or less.
Okay. Did you say anything to Mr. Riley or Mr. Nish during the communication?
I do not recall the actual interactions that took place. I do know Mr. Riley. He was a former commissioner, so it may have exchanged some social aspects of the occasion. I hadn't seen him in some time. As to the substance, I don't recall any information beyond what's characterized here.
During your tenure as a coastal commissioner, was it your general practice during ex parte communications to ask questions of the other persons present, or did you simply sit there and receive information without asking questions?
My general practice was to receive information and not to ask substantial questions.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at Exhibit 72. You also pulled that one out. Exhibit 72 is for a hearing date on January 8 of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Was there something, and agenda item 23A, was there something on Exhibit 72 that caught your eye?
Well, I think, as I look at this, it appears as though I was asking a question related to what may have been expectation that I would report an ex parte that had occurred within the 7-day window.
Okay, so on this agenda item 23A, is it fair to say that you were trying to get clarification on whether your ex parte needed to be orally or submitted subsequently in writing?
I believe that that appears to be it. I can't say for certain, but that appears to be the situation there.
Okay. I'm going to show you exhibit marked as number 1. Number 1 is an ex parte communication dated January 23 of 2014 concerning the Huntington Beach LCP. You recognize that disclosure form, sir?
I recognize my signature and the dating, and I recall the project.
Do you recall how long this ex parte communication lasted?
I do not.
Do you recall where it occurred?
I do not, although I noticed that the Culver City location is identified. I'm uncertain where Culver City is.
Do you know who prepared this form?
I expect that it was provided by one of the representatives there that initiated the communication.
Was it prepared and given to you at the beginning of the ex parte meeting or at the end?
I do not know.
Did this ex parte occur somewhere where people had access to a computer so that they could print out the form and give it to you on the spot?
I do not know.
Oops. We'll show you an exhibit marked as number 3. Exhibit 3 is an ex parte communication dated February 19, 2014 for Newport Banning Ranch. You recognize that disclosure form, sir?
I recognize the project and I recognize my name and my date of signature.
Do you know who typed up this form?
I do not know who typed up this form.
Do you know whether it was submitted to the Coastal Commission prior to April 11 of 2014?
I do not know that, but I presume that I was.
You presume that it was submitted before April 11, 2014, or on
Yes.
April 11?
No, I presume that it was submitted before,
What's the basis for your presumption?
because my practice was when I would sign my ex parte communications, they would be transmitted by myself or my staff to the commission.
Well, did you sign this form on March 2nd of 2014?
I believe I did.
And would you agree that March 2nd is more than 7 days after February 19 of 2014?
This is not reasonably calculated to lead to discovery of admissible evidence. As I told you in our last deposition, we will stipulate to arithmetic. You don't need to ask the witness to subtract one small number from another small number.
That's not what I asked him. I'm trying to confirm the date and make sure that he didn't make a mistake.
That's a different question.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Right, so you did sign this form on March 2, yes?
I believe that I did.
Okay. Did you have an understanding at the time you signed it that you were late in making the disclosure?
I do not, I do not recall the date that's identified there of February 19th, or the date that I signed it, or the date that it was registered. I do recall meeting with individuals associated with Newport Banning Ranch on a number of occasions leading up to various meetings.
Do you have any reason to believe that the March 2nd, 2014 date that you wrote with your own hand was not the date on which you signed this form?
I do not.
Okay. So as far as you know, you signed this form more than 7 days after the ex parte communication, correct?
I do not know that, because I don't know that the date that's identified on the form was the date of the meeting. However, I recognize that the date on the meeting, the date identified on the meeting and the form that I signed is more than 5 days or 7 days after the identified date of the communication.
Are you aware of any facts that would show that the ex parte described in Exhibit 3 did not occur on February 19 of 2014?
I am not aware of any facts to suggest otherwise.
Let me show you an exhibit marked as number 4. Exhibit 4 is an ex parte disclosure of February 20, 2014 concerning the SNG-Monterey Shores project. Do you recognize that form, sir?
Yes, this I do recognize, and this is my handwriting throughout the form.
Okay. You signed this form?
Yes,
Did you sign it on March 13 of 2014?
I believe that I did, yes.
Attached to it is an email from a Steve Weinstein to you. Do you see that?
I do see this, yes.
Do you know who Gary Giacomini is? That's Giacomini.
The pronunciation for Mr. Giacomini, and I do know Mr. Giacomini. He's a former coastal commissioner and a former county supervisor.
Was he a staff member at the Coastal Commission on February 20 of 2014?
No,
And he wasn't a commissioner on February 20, 2014, correct?
no,
No, he was not?
no, he was not.
Okay. Was he acting as an applicant's representative at the time, as far as you know?
I do not know that, no, actually.
Do you have any idea why he is CC'd on this email to you?
No, I could speculate, but I do not have any reason, I don't know why.
Okay. You read the email that's attached to Exhibit 4, correct?
It appears that I scanned it at a minimum, and I would imagine it was more at that scale.
The first page of Exhibit 4 is you summarizing in your own hand the contents of the attached email, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any idea why? Well, do you have any reason to believe that you didn't sign Exhibit 4 on March 13th
No.
of 2014?
No.
Do you have any explanation for why Exhibit 4 was not, well, strike that. Do you know whether Exhibit 4 was received by the Coastal Commission before April 11 of 2014?
I have no knowledge as to what date it would have been received by the Coastal Commission.
Okay. Do you have any explanation for why you didn't even sign this disclosure form until more than 7 days after the ex parte occurred?
I believe that I erred in properly filing my ex parte in this instance.
Okay. I'm going to show you an exhibit we'll mark as number 5. For the record, Exhibit 5 is an ex parte disclosure for a meeting on March 4, 2014. Do you recognize that disclosure form, sir?
Excuse me, I apologize. What, do I recognize this form, you say?
Yes, Exhibit 5.
Yeah.
Did you prepare Exhibit 5, or did somebody else prepare it for you?
I believe that the substance was prepared by someone other than myself, but that's my signature.
Okay. Did you read the document before you signed it?
I'm certain that I did.
Do you see the last sentence above your signature that states a copy of the written materials provided to me is attached here too?
Yes.
Do you see anything attached to Exhibit 5?
Not at this time.
Do you have any idea, were there written materials attached to Exhibit 5 when it was signed by you?
I can't recall, but I would expect that that there was something that was provided to me that was often provided.
Do you know whether the Coastal Commission received Exhibit 5 prior to April 11 of 2014?
I believe that they would, but I have no way of knowing that.
Do you have any idea where the written materials are that are referenced in Exhibit 5?
In reading this, it does describe that the contents of an electronic briefing package was provided to the commission staff.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you know where the written materials that were allegedly attached to the disclosure form are.
I do not, and I do not know that they were or were not submitted with this.
Okay. I'm going to show you an exhibit marked as number 6. For the record, Exhibit 6 is a disclosure form for a March 4, 2014 meeting concerning San Diego Gas and Electric Company.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my signature and I recognize the dating that are in my hand, and I'm familiar with the project.
Okay. Do you know who filled out that form for you? Or did you?
I do not know who filled it out at this time.
Do you know how long that ex parte meeting lasted?
I do not know how long it lasted.
Are you aware of any evidence showing that the disclosure form was received by the Coastal Commission before April 11, 2014?
I do not have any record or knowledge of when it was received.
Did you sign Exhibit 6 on March 7th of 2014?
I believe that I did, yes. I am confident that I did.
Show you Exhibit 7. It is an ex parte disclosure form for March 5, 2014 meeting concerning appeal number A-5-LGB-12-091. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my signature and I recognize my date that I wrote in my own hand, and I do not recall the project, but I feel confident that this is authentic.
Okay. Do you have any evidence to indicate that this disclosure form was received by the Coastal Commission before April 11 of 2014?
I have no certainty as to when it was received or whether that stamp was correct.
Do you have any reason to believe the stamp is incorrect?
I have reason to question why April 11th is on so many documents, but I have no reason to know one way or the other how forms were administered by the staff.
Before sitting here and going through these various exhibits that have the April 11th stamp on them, were you aware that there were a number of your disclosure forms that have the April 11th?
No.
Okay.
Please wait for the end of the question.
Okay.
So sitting here right now is the first time you're developing a question in your mind as to why they all have that April 11, 2014 stamp, correct?
Correct. If I might just question briefly.
Hang on. Your
Wait,
mic is
we have
hot,
microphones.
so we need to go off the record. You need to take your mic off, or we'll all hear it later on. Let's go off the record.
Okay.
We are off the record. The time is 1:20. We are back on the record. The time is 1:24.
Mr. Kinsey, did you need to correct anything from before? Are you ready
No.
to proceed? Okay. Let's just go back quickly to Exhibits 8 and 9. Did you respond to either of those emails?
I do not recall. I do not recall.
Okay. I'm going to show you exhibit marked as 10. Exhibit 10 is an ex parte disclosure for a meeting on April 23, 2014. The project concerns Sweetwater Mesa. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my signature.
Do you recognize anything else on the form?
I recognize the project, and I recognize the name of the representative for that initiated the communication.
Do you have any idea on what date you signed Exhibit 10?
No.
Do you see the May 9, 2014 stamp in the upper right-hand corner?
I do.
Did you put that stamp there?
I do not recall.
Do you have any idea who put that stamp there?
No.
Do you have any idea whether the Coastal Commission ever received Exhibit 10?
No.
Do you have any idea when Exhibit 10 was first included in the official record for the Sweetwater Mesa project?
No.
Do you have any reason to believe that the ex parte communication reflected in Exhibit 10 did not occur on April 23 of 2014?
No.
Any reason to believe that May 9th is not the date on which the Coastal Commission first received Exhibit 10?
I have no way to know that, one way or the other.
Okay. I'll show you Exhibit 11. Exhibit 11 is a ex parte disclosure form for a meeting on May 5, 2014 for the Caltrans State Route 1 project. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my name and the signature that it is in my handwriting. I recognize the project.
Did you write the date of May 5, 2014 on there?
Yes.
Do you know who filled out this form for you?
No.
Do you see where it says in the bottom half of the description, materials provided, PowerPoint presentation of the project, and draft Marin County Highway 1 conceptual bicycle improvement plan? Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you recall reviewing those materials during the ex parte meeting?
I do not recall that.
Do you have any reason to believe that you did not review those materials as part of the
No, I do not.
as part of the meeting? Do you have any reason to believe you didn't review those materials as part of the meeting described in Exhibit 11?
No.
No, you do not have
I
any.
do not have any reason to believe I didn't, so I have reason to believe that
You did review those materials.
I may well have reviewed those materials, yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea where those materials are today?
No.
Do you know whether those materials were ever put into the official record of the Coastal Commission for this project?
I don't know whether they were or were not.
Do you know what the hearing date was for this project?
No, I do not.
Do you have any idea when the Coastal Commission received this disclosure form for your ex parte communication?
I do not.
Would you be surprised if it turned out that it wasn't until May 15th when the public was first given access to the disclosure form in Exhibit 11?
No.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 12. Exhibit 12 is a disclosure form for an ex parte meeting on May 21 of 2014. Do you recognize that document, sir?
I recognize my signature, and I recognize the date that I provided and the time that was covered mostly by that stamp.
Okay. Do you recall where this ex parte occurred?
I do not. Okay.
Are you able to tell the date on which the Coastal Commission stamp shows that this form was received?
I believe it says June 4th, and it appears with a 4, so I would assume that was June 4.
Of 2014, correct?
I can't say that for certain.
It wouldn't have been received any earlier than June 4 of 2014, correct?
I can't say that for certain.
Do you have any reason to believe it was received by the Coastal Commission before June 4 of 2014?
I have no way to know that.
Okay. Is there a reason why there's no date indicating when you signed Exhibit 12?
I believe that the notation that's somewhat blurred by the received indicates when I signed it.
May 21 of 2014?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll show you Exhibit 13. It is an ex parte communication disclosure for a meeting on June 4, 2014 concerning the Huntington Beach LCP. Do you recognize that document, sir?
I recognize my name and the signature, the signature and the date that I posted.
Do you have any idea when this document was received by the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you have any reason, let's strike that. Do you know whether in fact it was received by the Coastal Commission?
No, I have no way of knowing that.
Do you know whether Exhibit 13 was ever included in the official record that's available to the public for the project?
No.
Let me show you Exhibit 14. Exhibit 14 is a disclosure form for a ex parte meeting on June 25 of 2015 for Newport Banning Ranch. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my signature, and I recognize the notation of the date on which I submitted this form.
Do you have any idea whether this disclosure form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Have you any idea whether this form ever appeared in the official record that is available for the project?
No.
You have any idea whether the disclosure in Exhibit 14 was submitted more than 7 days after the ex parte communication occurred?
No.
I'll show you an exhibit marked as 15. Exhibit 15 is for a September 29, 2014 ex parte communication for the Diablo Canyon license renewal. Do you recognize that document, sir?
I do.
Is that your signature on the form?
It is.
Is that your date on the form?
It is.
What date is that supposed to read?
9/29.
Was this form ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I assume that it was.
What's the basis for your assumption?
That my practice was to sign forms and provide them to my staff for transmission to the Coastal Commission.
Do you have any evidence that this form was ever received by the Coastal Commission?
No.
Show you Exhibit 16. Exhibit 16 is an ex parte disclosure for a meeting on September 30, 2014. Project 5-13-0962-A1. You recognize this document, sir?
I recognize my name and I recognize the dating of the document
Do you
that is
have,
in my hand.
did you sign this form on September 30th of 2014?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission's official record for the project?
I have reason to believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence that it was?
No.
Have any idea whether this disclosure was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Show you an exhibit marked as 17. Exhibit 17 is a disclosure form for September 30, 2014 on project 5-14-0613. You recognize that document, sir?
Let's see. My name I recognize and the date that it's provided on that I recognize.
Did you sign this form on September 30th of 2014?
I feel confident that I did.
Do you have any idea whether it was ever received by the Coastal Commission?
I do not.
Do you have any idea whether it was ever made available as part of the official record for this project?
No.
Do you know whether it was on file at the time you made an ex parte disclosure concerning this project?
No.
And by on file, I mean in the official record.
Okay.
You understood that?
I presumed it.
Same answer, right?
Same.
Okay. Exhibit 18 is a disclosure form for a number of projects on August 6, 2014. Application number 4-10-040 and several others. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my name and I recognize the dating of the form in my hand.
The date is October 8th of 2014.
Yes.
Do you have any idea whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this document was included in the official record for the project that was made available to the public before the hearing on it?
No.
I'll show you Exhibit 19. Exhibit 19 is an ex parte disclosure for a meeting on November 6th of 2014 concerning Black Hills Villa. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my signature, I recognize the date that is written in my hand, and I recognize that the information provided is also written in my hand.
Okay. Did you sign this on November 6th of 2014?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any idea whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence confirming that?
No.
Do you have any idea whether Exhibit 19 was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Show an exhibit marked as number 20. To save time, I'm just going to put this stack in front of you. Put this stack in front of you. Okay, let's take a look at Exhibit 20. It's an ex parte for a meeting on November 6, 2014 for the Cal-Am Test Well CDP. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form, I recognize my signature, I recognize my hands dated it, and I recognize that I filled in the form in my hand.
Did you sign it on November 6th of 2014?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence confirming that?
No.
Do you know whether this disclosure form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 21. It is for an ex parte meeting on December 2 of 2014 for the Broad Beach Sand Replenishment Project.
Say it again.
Broad Beach Sand Replenishment. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form. Yes.
Is that your signature on it?
That is my signature.
Did you sign it on December 3 of 2014?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence that it was?
No.
Do you know whether this form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 22. A meeting on December 2 of 2014 for the Black Hill Villas project. Do you recognize that form, sir?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes.
Did you sign it on December 3 of 2014?
Yes.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence to show that it was?
No.
Do you have any idea whether this form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 23. Do you recognize that document, sir?
I recognize the form, I recognize my signature, and I recognize that my hand signed or identified the date.
Did you sign it on March 5 of 2015?
I believe I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence that it was?
No.
Do you have any idea whether Exhibit 23 was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 24, please. Do you recognize Exhibit 24?
I do.
Do you know who filled out that form?
I filled out that form.
Okay, is that your signature toward the bottom?
Yes.
Did you sign it on March 25 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was?
No.
Do you know whether this form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Let's go off the record for a sec.
We are off the record at 1:42. We're back on the record at 1:43.
Please take a look at Exhibit 25, sir. Do you recognize it?
I recognize the form. I recognize that it's my hand that filled out the form, that the date is written in my hand, and that I signed it.
Did you sign it on April 24 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you have any idea whether this form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 26. Exhibit 26 is dated April 23, 2015. That's the date of the meeting for the Huntington Beach Poseidon desal facility. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form. Yes.
Did you sign this form?
Yes.
Did you sign it on May 10 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission to be put into the official record?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission and put into the official record?
And no.
Do you know whether this disclosure form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Exhibit 27 is for a meeting on April 29 of 2015 for the Goleta Beach Coastal Development Permit. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form.
Is that your
Yes.
signature at the bottom?
Yes,
Did you sign it on May 10 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
Yes.
Do you have any evidence that you submitted it?
No.
Do you know whether this form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Exhibit 28 is a disclosure form for a May 8, 2015 ex parte on security national guarantee. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form.
Is
Yes.
that your signature and date at the bottom?
Yes.
Did you sign this form on May 10 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Do you know whether the form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence to show that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Exhibit 29 is for a June 5, 2015 ex parte concerning redevelopment of a 7.3 acre site for use by Humboldt State University. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form.
You see your signature on it?
No.
Did you have the ex parte described in the form?
I do not recall.
Do you have any reason to doubt that the ex parte described in this form occurred?
No.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you have any evidence indicating that this form was ever included in the official record for the project?
No.
Exhibit 30 is an ex parte for a June 12, 2015 communication for Back Bay Landing. Do you recognize that form, sir?
Yes.
You see your signature at the bottom?
Yes.
Did you sign it on June 15 of 2015?
Yes. I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
Yes, I
Yeah,
believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence to indicate that the Coastal Commission received it from you?
No.
Do you have any evidence to indicate that this disclosure was included in the official record for the project?
No.
Exhibit 31 is an ex parte communication on July 9 of 2015 for Southern California Edison Company. Do you recognize that form, sir?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes.
Did you sign it on August 10th of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit it to the Coastal Commission before you signed it?
No.
Okay. So if you submitted it, it was no earlier than August 10th of 2015, correct?
Correct. Or likely.
Do you have any evidence to indicate that you submitted this form to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Do you have any idea why you signed this form more than a month after the ex parte communication occurred?
I know the circumstances of my life at that time, but I don't have a reason to dispute that it was more than 7 days.
Do you agree that this disclosure was late under the ex parte rules?
Yes. Apparently. I should say apparently.
Do you have some excuse that would mitigate the untimely?
I don't believe that law provides for mitigating reasons.
Is there a reason that you think is relevant for why this was signed more than a month after the ex parte meeting?
Not that I care to share with you.
Okay, and they're not reasons that you're going to share with the judge after today, correct? Let me put it this way. I'm not interested in prying. What I don't want to do is be surprised. So if there's a reason that you're going to bring forward later, we should talk about it now. If you're not going to bring it forward, I'm happy with you saying it's none of my business.
Well, what I would say is that I may share my circumstances with my counsel, and at such time as I choose to do that, I would ask him to notify you immediately.
Do you understand that that might necessitate another deposition?
Would you like to talk about it outside?
Yeah, we could take a break. I'm not trying to be hard. I just want to get this wrapped up and not do it twice.
So do I. I think we all do, yeah. Yeah, I'll briefly step outside.
Okay, let's go off the record.
Okay, we're off the record at 1:50. We are back on the record. The time is 1:53.
Mr. Kinsey, did you want to offer an explanation for why the disclosure in Exhibit 31 was late, or shall we move on?
Well, I would like to just offer an explanation of my circumstances between October of 14 and December of 15. And I'm not presenting them to you as an excuse, but I was in a situation where not only was I a member of the County Board of Supervisors and on the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, which is going through a very contentious period on a 4-year plan, but I have two 90-plus-year-old parents who I was attempting to move from Arizona to California, and I was acting in the capacity as an owner-builder and building them a home on my property for them to live in. And my son was going through a very difficult time in his workplace or his work situation, and so frankly, I was really kind of scrambling just to stay on top of my game, and I was also the chair of the California Coastal Commission. So again, I just want that to be, understand my humanity, but I'm more than happy to go on, and I'm not presenting it to you as my reason for allowing myself to ignore the law.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do you have any idea? So Exhibit 31, you signed it on October 10 of 2015?
Mm-hmm.
And
Wait a second. Exhibit 31, I signed it on August 10th.
my mistake, August 10 of 2015, correct?
I believe so.
And do you know whether you submitted this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence to confirm that you did?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 32. It's for an ex parte on July 16, 2015 for the Crummer project. Do you recognize that document?
I recognize my signature, the form, and the date in which I had introduced.
Did you sign it on August 10th of 2015?
Yes, I believe I did.
Roughly 3.5 weeks after you had the ex parte communication?
It appears that way, yes.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence to confirm that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the Coastal Commission?
No.
Exhibit 33 is for an ex parte on July 21 of 2015 for the Newport Banning Ranch project. Do you recognize Exhibit 33, sir?
I recognize the form, I recognize my signature, and I recognize that my handwriting placed the date of August 11th of 2015.
You signed this on August 11th of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence confirming that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
You signed this form roughly 2.5 weeks after the ex parte communication, correct?
That appears to be the case.
Okay. Let's take a look at Exhibit 34. It is an ex parte disclosure form for the San Diego Airport Parking Plaza on August 3, 2015. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form, I recognize my signature, and I recognize the handwriting of the date of August 4th, 2015.
Did you sign the form on August 4 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence confirming that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 35. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form, the signature, and the date
Exhibit
that's
30.
in my hand.
Sorry, Exhibit 35 is for an August 4, 2015 ex parte on the Kellogg Avenue LLC project, correct?
Correct.
Did you sign this form on August 5 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
Yes.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No, but I will just say that I have every reason to believe that I did. The practice of filing these, you know, I didn't just take these and sign them and then throw them away, so I believe that I did.
But again, you don't have any...
I have no evidence.
Okay. Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
As a contractor, do you ever have to take plans for a job to a government agency for approval?
I have not been an acting general contractor for over 20 years.
How about as an architect or in the design-build field?
Ask the question again.
Do you ever have to take your work product to a government agency to get it reviewed or approved?
Yes.
And when you take it in, is it your experience that the government agencies usually stamp what you submit to show when it was received or filed?
Yes.
Is it your practice to get a stamped copy of what you submit so that you have proof that you actually submitted it?
No.
No?
No.
You just trust the government agency that when you submit it, there will be a record that you submitted it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Has that always been your practice?
Yeah.
Is it your practice to this day?
Yeah.
So even after all these Coastal Commission disclosures that don't show when they were received, you still don't ask government agencies to give you a received stamp copy on your filings?
It assumes facts. It
Yeah,
assumes that this is a practice he has now.
If I feel the need to have documentation, I ask for documentation. If I feel like I'm trusting, I often allow the system to work the way it's supposed to.
At any time during your tenure on the Coastal Commission, did you ever feel distrustful about whether your ex partes were being logged correctly?
Yes.
At what point in time?
After the litigation was filed.
Prior to that time, you didn't have any doubt about whether your ex parte disclosures were being received?
None.
Okay. You never voiced any concerns before this lawsuit was filed?
No.
And I would caution you not to talk about any communications you had with attorneys, but if you could answer it without going into that, you may.
Yeah. You never voiced any concerns to staff or at a public meeting about the Commission's handling of your ex parte disclosure forms, correct?
Same instruction.
Say that again, please. Repeat
Yeah.
the question.
Not including your attorneys. You never voiced concerns to Coastal Commission staff or at a public meeting about how the Commission was processing your disclosure forms, correct?
That is correct, nor did any member of the public express any concern.
Okay, but you didn't in particular, correct?
I did not.
Do you recall any of your colleagues on the Commission ever expressing concern about how the way disclosure forms were being processed by the Commission?
I do not recall.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 36. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my name. I recognize that I signed the date and that this is the form that is used by the Coastal Commission.
It's for a communication on August 5 of 2015 concerning the Keene, Keane, Malibu project, correct?
That's what's referred to there.
Did you sign the form on August 10th of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Please wait for the end of the question.
The answer to that question is yes, sir.
I believe that I did sign it.
Okay. Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Okay. Exhibit 37, do you recognize that form, sir?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes.
Did you sign it on August 10th of 2015?
I believe that I did.
So let's try to speed this up. Take a look at 37 through 41, please. While you're looking, I'll just state for the record that 37 is for the SeaWorld Blue World project. 38 is for San Diego Unified Port District Port Master Plan Amendment. 39 is for the Integral Communities project. 40 is for the Crummer project, and 41 is for the Laguna Beach Fire Department fuel project. Do you recognize those forms, sir?
I recognize the forms, and my signature is the signature is mine on each of the forms, and the dating of the form is mine on each of the forms.
You signed each of them on August 10th of 2015, correct?
I believe that I did, yes.
Did you submit these forms to the Coastal Commission?
I believe so.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted them to the Coastal Commission?
Well, I believe the fact that these all were received from the Coastal Commission file suggests that that's evidence, but I have no other evidence.
Okay. Do you know how I received these forms?
No.
Okay. Do you know whether any of these forms appeared in the official record for the project to which the forms relate?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 42 for an August 10, 2015 telephone call concerning Malibu Coast Estates. Do you recognize that form?
I recognize the form, yes.
Do you know whose handwriting appears apart from your signature?
No.
Did you sign this form on August 10th of 2015?
I believe that I did, yes.
Did you submit it to the Coastal Commission?
Yes.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
Nothing other than the form itself.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record of the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 43 for an ex parte on August 10 of 2015 for the Crummer LCPA Malibu project. Do you recognize the form?
I do.
Do you know who filled it out?
I believe, well, the signature is mine and the date is mine.
You signed it on August 11th of 2015.
I believe so.
Do you otherwise know who filled out the form?
Well, I know that the practice was often to require the applicant to submit their best effort at characterizing the presentation, and then I would review that.
Okay. Do you recall ever making changes to any applicant's characterization of the presentation?
I do not recall that, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did.
Okay. Do you know whether Exhibit 43 was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether Exhibit 43 ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 44. It's for application number 5-15-30 for an ex parte on 9/1. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize the form, the signature is mine, and the dating of the submittal is mine.
Okay. Did you sign this form on September 1 or September 2 of 2015?
Yes, on one of those dates. It's unclear because of the
Okay.
date.
Did you ask any questions at this ex parte?
Probably not.
What makes you think you didn't?
Well, ex partes were, I considered ex partes to be a responsibility that my appointing authority asked me to undertake. But in a busy life with a very full report that was attached with every project that came to us, I relied almost exclusively on the staff report and the public hearing. So ex partes were a formality in many respects that I respected and did, but it would be very, very unusual for me to want to dig deeply into any project with any ex parte.
Do you know whether Exhibit 44 was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was submitted?
No.
Do you know whether Exhibit 44 ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Do you have an understanding of the reasons why ex parte communications are supposed to be disclosed? Do you have a general
Oh,
understanding?
yes.
What's your understanding of the reasons for that?
To provide the public with a full understanding of the communications that occur outside of a public hearing.
Do you think it's a good thing that the public knows about those communications?
I do.
Take a look at Exhibit 45. It's for an October 14, 2015 ex parte for Back Bay Landing. Do you recognize that form?
I recognize the form, the signature, and the date that I printed.
Did you sign it on October 16th of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Was this form ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was submitted to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Did you have a practice of making oral disclosures in which you would say, for example, my ex partes are on file?
I wouldn't say a practice, but from time to time, when I believed my ex partes were on file, I would say that.
When you would make those statements, had you ever done anything in advance to confirm that your ex parte was on file?
Nothing in any specific way, but my practice was to try to get to these ex partes as soon as possible.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 46.
Mm-hmm.
Do you reckon it's for an October 22, 2015 meeting on Newport Banning Ranch? Do you recognize the form?
I recognize the form. Yes.
Did you sign it and date it at the bottom?
That is my handwriting. Yes.
Did you sign it on November 2 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Do you have any idea why you signed it 11 days after the ex parte meeting occurred?
No.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 47
Yes, I think so.
for a November 23, 2015 communication concerning DCPP license renewal. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I do.
Is that your signature at the bottom?
It is.
Did you sign it on November 24 of 2015?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 48. Do you recognize that form?
Yes,
Is that your handwriting throughout the form?
it is.
Did you sign the form and date it at the bottom?
I did.
Did you sign it on December 15 of 2015?
Yes.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
Yes.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at 49. Do you recognize this form?
Yes.
Is that your handwriting filling out the form?
Yes.
Did you sign it and date it at the bottom?
Yes.
Did you fill it out on May 2 of 2016?
Yes.
Did you ever submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
Yes.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it?
No.
Do you have any idea whether the form ever appeared in the official record for the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you have any idea why it was nearly 5 months after the ex parte that you completed this form?
Yes, because I had simply, this is one of the 2 instances where I felt that I simply had an oversight of recalling to fill the form. This is with regard to a field trip that I made after having spoken with the executive director, and it happened during a holiday period. I went back through the holiday and in the sweep of things in the new year, taking on the presidency of the Board of Supervisors, they simply neglected to file this until it was brought to my attention, and when it was, I filed this at this time. And I also recused myself from this matter.
It says in the middle of your main disclosure, we reviewed a revised site plan that was modified following the October 2015 hearing. Do you see that sentence?
I do.
So you actually looked at some form of written plans during this ex parte?
No, it wasn't. No, it was I took a field trip, and so they were describing on site what changes they were making.
Okay. So you weren't reviewing documents with them?
No. In
Okay.
fact, it was surprising to me that I had anticipated that I was going to have free reign on the property.
Okay. And you don't know whether this disclosure form was ever included in the official record for the project, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And no evidence that you ever submitted it to the Coastal Commission? Do you have any?
Well, I feel certain that I did because my counsel was making it clear to me that I needed to do that. So, but I have no other documentation of it.
Okay. When was...
And I think it sounds like I need to remind you not to testify about what counsel said to you.
Okay.
I or anyone
I
else.
apologize.
That's attorney-client.
Okay, take a look at Exhibit 50.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize this email to Sherilyn, S-H-E-R-I-L-Y-N, SARB, S-A-R-B,
I
on
do.
January 19 of 2016?
Yes.
You wrote this, correct?
Yes.
Is your email describing the same visit to Banning Ranch that you summarized in Exhibit 49?
Yes, I believe so.
Is there a reason why Exhibit 49 is just a few sentences, but your email to Sherilyn Sarb is 2 pages?
I believe that the form of the disclosure accurately characterizes the activities that I undertook there.
Did you understand that the ex parte rules require a complete, comprehensive disclosure of the ex parte communication?
I was under the understanding that communications with staff were not subject to ex parte.
I understand that, but you understand that communications with applicants and their representatives are, correct?
Right.
And you also understood at the time of your December 2015 Banning Ranch ex parte that the rules required a complete and comprehensive disclosure of the ex parte, correct?
Yes, I understood the law.
Okay.
However, this was communication with staff. This was not communication with applicants. So I believe that the ex parte characterizes the activities that I took, that I undertook.
But you didn't think to put the information you shared with Sherilyn into your ex parte disclosure form?
That's correct, because I considered that, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Got me again, damn.
Take a look at 51. It's for the Poseidon desalination project on March 30th of 2016. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I do,
Is that your signature and date at the bottom?
yes.
You signed it on March 31 of 2016.
I believe I did.
Did you ever submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
Yes, I believe
Yes.
so.
Do you have any evidence that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No,
Do you know whether this disclosure form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
no.
Take a look at Exhibit 52. Did you fill out that form with your own hand?
Yes,
Did you sign it and date it at the bottom?
yes,
It is for a May 3, 2016 ex parte on Newport Banning Ranch, correct?
yes.
Did you sign Exhibit 52 on May 3 of 2016?
I believe I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it?
No,
Do you know whether this disclosure form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
no.
Take a look at Exhibit 53. Do you recognize that form? It's for a communication on May 3 of 2016 for Newport Banning Ranch.
Yes,
Did you sign that form on May 3 of 2016?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit it to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No,
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
no.
Take a look at 54, Exhibit 54. It's for a May 4, 2016 ex parte for State Parks appeal in Sonoma County. Do you recognize that form?
I do.
Is that your signature and date at the bottom?
It is.
Did you fill out this form with your own hand?
I did.
Did you sign it on May 9 of 2016?
I believe that I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No, I don't recall that this issue has ever been revisited since this meeting occurred at the commission.
Had you had any ex partes on this project prior to May 4 of 2016?
I can't say with certainty.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 55. It's for a May 25, 2016 ex parte for State Parks application to charge parking fees. Do you recognize that form?
I do.
Did you fill it out with your own hand?
I did.
Did you sign it on May 27 of 2016?
I did.
Did you submit this form to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you submitted it to the Commission?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 56. It's for a June 1, 2016 ex parte for State Parks Sonoma County parking fees. Did you fill that form out by your own hand?
I did.
Is that your signature and date at the bottom?
It is.
Did you sign it on June 6 of 2016?
I did.
Did you submit it to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did.
Do you have any evidence showing that you did?
No.
Do you know whether this form ever appeared in the official record for the project?
I don't know that there's been a subsequent hearing.
Okay. So you don't know whether it's been put into the official record?
Right.
Take a look at Exhibit 57. Do you recognize this form for a ex parte communication on June 6th of 2016 concerning Newport Banning Ranch?
I do.
Did you sign it on July 13 of 2016?
I believe that that may be an inaccurate date.
What makes you think that?
Because the I recall the phone call while I was driving to a meeting, and so I could confirm that. I could verify for you that based on the date of the Santa Barbara hearings. But having said that, it's tipped off by the fact that there's a received stamp on there that precedes the date of the signing.
Do you know whether the Coastal Commission received Exhibit 57 before June 22 of 2016?
I do not.
But the ex parte did occur on June 6 of 2016, correct?
I believe that it did,
Do you have
yes.
any evidence showing that Exhibit 57 was submitted before June 22 of 2016?
No.
Do you know whether Exhibit 57 appears in the official record for the project?
No.
Or do you know whether it was ever put into the official record for the project?
No.
Do you have any explanation for why Exhibit 57 appears to have been submitted about 2 weeks after the ex parte meeting?
Objection mischaracterizes the document.
I'm confused by the dates all the way around, so I have no explanation.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 58, please. It's for an ex parte communication on July 6th of 2016. You recognize that document?
I recognize the document. I recognize my hand.
Did you sign it on July 13 of 2016?
I believe, I can't say. I'm confused by the dates.
What part of this form is confusing to you?
The fact that the received date is in advance of the date of the communication.
Have you ever seen a received stamp from the Coastal Commission on an ex parte disclosure form where the date stamp is earlier than the date of the communication?
I haven't. I've never really tracked ex parte forms.
The discrepancies in the received stamp on Exhibits 57 and 58 are, to the best of your knowledge, anomalies?
I cannot say.
But you don't have an explanation for how the received stamp could show a date earlier than your signature date, do you?
No.
Is it possible that the received stamp was backdated by somebody?
I don't know. I have no way of knowing.
Do you have any evidence to indicate that Exhibit 58 was actually received no later than June 22 of 2016 by the
No.
Coastal Commission?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 59
Mm-hmm.
for an August 4, 2016 ex parte concerning W-176 Loparina, L-O-P-A-R-E-N-A. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I do.
Did you fill it out by your own hand?
I did.
Did you sign it and date it at the bottom?
I did.
Did you sign it on April 10 of 2016?
I can't say that for certainty because there's a discrepancy between what I wrote at the top and what I wrote at the bottom.
At the top you wrote August 4, and at the bottom you wrote April 10, correct?
Right.
So you don't know when this ex parte occurred,
I
correct?
can't. It appears to be a transcription error on my part.
Is it possible that you had this ex parte before August 4th of 2016?
Unlikely. I would have to verify that.
Okay. In all likelihood, it's the signature date that is incorrect. Is that what you think?
That appears to be the case.
Okay. Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was?
Only the stamp date.
Other than what you're seeing on this form, do you have any evidence?
No.
Apart from this form that's in front of you, do you have any evidence at home or at work
No.
showing? Let me finish a question.
Excuse me.
Apart from the date stamp on Exhibit 59, do you have any evidence at home or at work or anywhere else showing when you would have submitted Exhibit 59 to the Coastal Commission?
No.
Okay. And I don't think I asked you on Exhibits 57 and 58. Let's go back quickly. Do you know whether you actually submitted 57 and 58 to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that I did, yes.
Do you have any evidence showing when you submitted them?
No.
Do you know whether 57 or 58 ever appeared in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 59.
At
Oops, sorry.
59.
Exhibit 60.
Okay.
Exhibit 60 is an ex parte disclosure for September 26 with Don Schmitz on behalf of Newport Beach. Do you recognize that form, sir?
I recognize my name on the form, and I recognize the name of Mr. Schmitz.
Do you know what project it relates to?
Let's see. I have to read it.
It is for Banning Ranch, though, isn't it?
No, it's for the Newport Beach Land Use Implementation Plan.
Okay. Was the ex parte on September 26th of 2016?
I cannot say for certain, but it appears that way.
Did you type up this disclosure form?
I can't say for certainty, but I believe that I did.
Okay. Do you know when you submitted it to the Coastal Commission?
I can't say for certainty.
Do you see that there's a stamp indicating it was received by the Coastal Commission on September 2 of 2016?
I see that.
Do you have any explanation for why that stamp shows a date earlier than when you had the ex parte communication?
No.
Do you know whether this form was ever submitted to the Coastal Commission?
I believe that it was.
Do you have any evidence showing that it was?
No.
Do you know whether this form appears in the official record for the project to which it relates?
No.
Take a look at 61, please.
I don't believe I have a 61.
Let's go off the record real fast.
We are off the record at 2:34.
That's because we moved it.
Okay.
We are back on the record. The time is 2:44.
Mr. Kinsey, for Exhibit 59, you were noticing some date discrepancies. Is it possible that the communication in Exhibit 59 actually occurred on August 4 of 2015 as opposed to August 4 of 2016?
No, I feel strongly that that would not be the case.
Okay, take a look at Exhibit 60. It also had some date discrepancies. Is it possible that that communication occurred on September 26 of 2015 rather than 2016?
No, I feel
Okay.
very certain about that.
Okay. For the remaining exhibits 62 through 100, other than the ones in that range that we dealt with about an hour and a half ago, I'm going to ask you some general questions that apply to all of them as we discussed when we were last off the record. And then for some of them I'll have some particular questions, but I'm trying to move this along.
Appreciate it.
So for those remaining exhibits that you have, do you have Is it your understanding that the Coastal Commission maintains a video archive of all of the meetings?
Yes.
And that's available on the Commission's website, correct?
Yes.
And do you have any information to indicate that the archives don't accurately depict the Coastal Commissioner statements that are made at the meetings?
No.
Okay. In looking through the disclosures in 62 through 100, do you have any reason to doubt the accuracy of what's quoted from your disclosures on those forms?
I have no reason to doubt that.
Okay. From what you could tell and what you recall, they appear to be accurate transcriptions of your disclosures, correct?
Well, I would say that I would expect that they would be accurate.
Yeah.
And that if they weren't, that I would be served by my counsel to point that out. So I'm going to consider them to be accurate.
Okay. In reviewing them, you didn't see anything that jumped out at you as inaccurate, correct?
Other than the spelling of names?
The substance is correct, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, that was a question. You didn't notice anything substantively that appeared wrong, correct?
Correct.
Okay. For those disclosures, do you have any records indicating, apart from what you orally disclosed, the identifying the participants in those ex parte communications?
No.
Other than what you disclosed orally as reflected in these exhibits, do you have any records that indicate where those ex parte communications occurred?
No. No, I have no records.
Okay. Other than what's disclosed in this range of exhibits, do you have any records indicating the duration of those ex parte communications?
No.
Okay. So let's take a look at 62. Uh, 62 indicates that you had an ex parte communication on September 25th, but no year is stated. Since the hearing date was on October 9th of 2013, was the ex parte you were disclosing on September 25 of 2013?
I would presume that it was.
Okay. Any reason to believe otherwise?
No.
Okay. Do you know why you waited more than well, strike that. Do you have any idea why you were making this oral disclosure instead of disclosing it in writing?
Assumes facts.
Right. I don't have the ability here to confirm whether or not I did file an ex parte.
Okay. You don't have any reason to doubt that the ex parte occurred on September 25 and that the disclosure was on October 9 of the same year, correct?
Correct.
Okay, take a look at 63. Do you know when the ex parte that you're disclosing occurred?
No.
Do you know where the ex parte occurred?
No, but it may well have occurred in my office by teleconference. Mr. Stacy would typically either briefly meet with a commissioner in advance of a hearing or by teleconference. Excuse me. No.
Do you know how long that ex parte communication lasted?
I believe that, no, I don't.
Take a look at 64. Do you see that it refers to an ex parte communication on October 4th and another one on September 30th?
I see that, yes.
Were those in the year 2013?
Yes.
Do you know where those ex partes occurred?
No.
Okay, take a look at 65. Do you see where you're disclosing an ex parte on September 30th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, was that in the year 2013?
I believe it was.
Do you know where the conversation took place?
I believe it took place by phone.
Was anybody else on the phone call?
No.
It refers to a PowerPoint presentation. Do you see that?
Yes,
Do you know whether the PowerPoint presentation ever made it into the official record for the project?
I believe that it did.
You've understood today that when we've been looking at a particular disclosure and I refer to the project, I mean the project and the disclosure we're looking at the time, right?
I do.
Okay. Take a look at 66. You make reference to an ex parte on September 25. Was that of the year 2013?
I believe that it was.
It makes reference to a PowerPoint presentation. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you know whether the PowerPoint presentation ever made it into the official record for the
I
project?
believe that it was, yes.
Do you have any evidence that it was put into the record?
I don't.
And going back to Exhibit 65, where there's also a reference to a PowerPoint presentation, do you have any evidence that that PowerPoint presentation made it into the record for the project?
I don't have any evidence. There were many occasions, though, when presentations were included as part of the record.
Okay. Take a look at 67. Do you see that you were disclosing an ex parte on October 30th?
Yes.
Would that be for the year 2013?
Yes.
It states that you reviewed the applicant's briefing booklet. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know whether the briefing booklet made it into the official record for the project?
I believe that it did.
Do you have any evidence showing that it did?
I do not.
Take a look at Exhibit 68. It refers to an ex parte on November 7th. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you know what time of day the ex parte occurred?
No.
Do you recall, if you look at the end of that disclosure, you make reference to an article in the New York Times where the county and Poseidon indicated they had accounted for the eventuality in their financing. So there was some discussion about the financing issues. Do you see that?
Yes, I see the, yeah.
Do you recall what the financing issues were?
I don't recall at this time.
Take a look at 69. Actually, back on 68. Any idea how much time you spent talking about financing issues during that ex parte?
Generally, my ex partes were short, and so I would imagine it was a few minutes at most.
Okay. Take a look at 69. It refers to an ex parte on November 4th. Was that of the year 2013?
Yes.
You make reference to a lively discussion. Do you see that?
I do see that.
Do you recall what made the discussion lively?
I wish I did. When I read that, I was curious. No.
Uh,
Army Corps isn't a generally lively group.
Do you see the second to last line, a reference to the briefing booklet?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know whether the briefing booklet ever made it into the official record for the project?
No, but I believe that it did.
Okay. Do you have any evidence showing that it made it into the official record?
No, but it was a practice that I saw quite frequently as a commissioner.
What do you mean?
That briefing packets from representatives of applicants were reported to and often showed up in the packets. So the information that was presented in ex partes was almost universally, by kind of experienced professionals, was almost, it appeared to me, I can't think of a time when it wasn't.
Okay. In other words, the briefing booklets that you would have reviewed during an ex parte made it onto the commission's website for everybody to see, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 70. Do you recognize that disclosure?
No, I don't recognize it, but I recognize the names, and, if this is my comment, then
Do you have any idea when that ex parte occurred? The date or the time?
no, but they often occurred shortly before hearings, SAR would call.
Okay. Do you know whether the ex parte reflected in Exhibit 70 was a phone call or an in-person meeting?
Very likely a phone call.
You also said that your ex partes are on file. Did you do anything to verify that they were on file?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 71. It states that you had an ex parte with Susan McCabe, Ann Blemker, and Ed Selleck. Blemker is Blemker, and Selleck is Sellick. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you know what date that ex parte occurred?
No.
It states that you reviewed a presentation booklet. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you know whether the presentation booklet made it into the official record for the project?
I believe that it did.
Do you know how long this ex parte communication lasted?
Less than 15 minutes.
Okay, take a look at 72. Exhibit 72, that is.
Oh, wait, I'm 72. I'm not
Sorry,
73.
you're correct. 73. My mistake. Do you recognize the ex parte disclosure in Exhibit 73?
I see that.
Do you know what date you had that ex parte with Mr. Niche?
I do not.
Do you know what you discussed with Mr. Niche on that project?
I do not, but my ex parte would have described that.
Did you do anything to make sure that your ex parte was on file in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 74. Makes reference to an ex parte on March 4th at 1 p.m. Do you see that?
Yes.
Would that have been March 4th of 2013?
I believe it would be, yes.
The second paragraph states that you had an ex parte, it appears the same day, an hour later. Is that correct?
And that does appear to be the case, yes.
So the second paragraph is for an ex parte on March 4, 2013 at 2 p.m. Is that right?
Correct.
Do you know whether you did a written disclosure for the 2 March 4th ex partes?
I am not certain about that.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 75. It makes reference to an ex parte on March 31st. Would that have been in the year 2014?
I believe it would have been.
Do you know whether you did a written disclosure for this ex parte communication?
I do not know that, but I would suspect that I did.
Did you ever do anything to determine whether your written ex parte disclosure, if there was one, made it into the official record for this project?
No.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 76. Do you see in the first paragraph it makes reference to an ex parte on March 28th?
Yes,
Was that of the year 2014?
it would have been.
And the second paragraph refers to an ex parte on March 31st. Would that also be for 2014?
Yes.
Do you know whether you disclosed either of these ex parte communications in writing?
I do not.
Do you know whether you took any steps to determine whether your written disclosures, if any, made their way into the official record for this project?
No, I do not.
Take a look at 77. Do you see where it makes reference to an ex parte on March 21st?
Yes.
Would that have been for the year 2014?
Yes.
Do you know whether the briefing booklet referenced in the middle of that disclosure made its way into the official record for the project?
I do recall that it did.
Okay. Do you know whether you did written disclosures for this ex parte communication?
I don't recall whether I did or not.
Okay. Let's take a look at Exhibit 78.
Okay.
Why did you state that you did not have any ex partes, but you acknowledged that you spoke to Ms. McCabe and Ms. Lutheran?
So the second name?
Lutheran? Like the religion?
Well, Ms. McCabe gave me a book, which I didn't look at, and I believe it was a book that was included in the file. And Ms. Lutheran asked me about procedures in terms of the amount of time she could be able to speak.
I see. That was, with Ms. Lutheran, it was a question about the conduct of the hearing, not the substance of the project? Okay. For Ms. McCabe, what did you do with the briefing book that she gave you?
I probably just dropped it in the circular file. I didn't look at it.
Just by circular file, you mean the trash can?
Correct.
Or, as
We
all of us in
recycle around here.
Viros say, the recycle bin, correct?
Well, I would wish that it was. Sometimes she'd do plastic-coated things, so it may have been the trash can.
Okay, but it didn't go into the official record. It got discarded somehow?
My copy didn't go into the official record, but as I said, I can't think of a time that anything that Ms. McCabe presented as a presentation wasn't also provided to the staff.
Okay.
And she often would say, the information I'm showing you has already been provided or will be provided, but usually already been provided to the staff.
Do you recall when she handed you that briefing book?
I believe that it was on or either on the day of the hearing or the day before.
Okay,
Very, very soon.
let's take a look at 79.
Mhm.
It states that your ex parte is on file.
Mhm.
Were you referring, well, first of all, you referred to an ex parte on May 5th. Was that of the year 2014?
Yes.
It states that your ex parte is on file. Was that an ex parte with Stephen Galvez or with somebody else?
I believe it was with Stephen Galvez. I'm not certain, but I believe it was.
Okay, so
Assuming that he is the, I think if he is the project manager, there was someone who was the project manager that came and met with me.
did you do anything to make sure that your ex parte was on file for that particular disclosure?
No, I did not.
Next exhibit is number 80. In the first paragraph, it makes reference to an ex parte on May 21st. Would that have been in the year 2014?
I believe it would have been.
And it goes on to state that your ex parte is on file, correct?
Let's see.
In that first paragraph?
It does, yes.
Okay. Did you do anything to make sure that your ex parte was on file?
No.
Then states that you had an ex parte on June 4th. Was that also of 2014?
I believe that it would have been.
Did you have an ex parte on file for that ex parte communication?
I do not know the answer to that.
That was a bad question. Did you have a disclosure on file for the June 4th ex parte communication?
I do not know.
It states in that second paragraph that you reviewed LCP applications. Do you see that? At the end of the second line in the second paragraph.
Yeah, I see that. I'm not sure that we reviewed documents, but it was the history. So I can't be specific at this time. I mean, I could give some more thought to this if you want me to.
In the last paragraph, you state that they presented information on the subsurface investigations that took place on 2001. Was that information in writing, or was it oral?
No, it was oral.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 81, please. You see where it states that on the week of June 4th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes,
Was that during the year 2014?
I believe it was.
Did you misspeak and mean to say on June 4th?
I don't know that.
Do you know the date on which the ex parte described in Exhibit 81 occurred?
I do not recall that at this time.
Do you have any way of getting that information?
I don't know. Let's see, 2014. No, I don't believe that I do. But I could certainly, I will look and see if there's something I can report to my counsel.
How do you, when you were a coastal commissioner, how would you track your meetings? Did you have an appointment book, or did you have a scheduler? How would you do that?
You know, it was variable, but I had a calendar that was electronic for many things, but not all things.
Did you keep that electronic calendar, or did Lisa keep it for you?
Lisa would have been the one who had that. I didn't. I mean, I could add things. That often was chastised for doing so.
If we put a blank in your transcript at this point, can you check your records to see if you can determine the date of that ex parte communication?
Yes.
And will you write in the date if you can verify it?
Yes.
And if you can't, just say unable.
Right.
Is that okay?
It's fine.
Okay.
Ms. Cross has left the state, but I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Would you please put a blank at this point?
So, June. Okay. Okay.
All right, let's turn to Exhibit 82. Okay. Exhibit 82 states that you had an ex parte on June 10th. Would that be of the year 2014?
It's likely that it would.
Okay. You end that ex parte by stating that there's no additional information that you would wish to share. Do you see that?
Okay, yeah, that was, yes.
Was there other information that was
No.
exchanged?
No, that was a
Just a bad turn of phrase?
colloquial, yeah,
Okay.
bad choice of words. Unless she said I was cute.
She did, huh?
I said unless.
Oh, unless she said that. I see.
Okay.
Okay, Exhibit 83. It refers to an ex parte on August 4th. Would that be of the year 2014?
I believe that it would be.
Who'd you meet with for that ex parte communication?
I don't recall, but given that I said that they were just mentioned by Commissioner Groom, I think you'd be able to find that information.
Commissioner who?
Groom, G-R-O-O-M.
Okay. So whoever Commissioner Groom and Commissioner Vargas mentioned are the people that you had your ex parte communication with?
Yes.
Was there anyone else involved in the ex parte communication?
No. And I know I'm not supposed to go on a lot, but you know, ex partes often were reported by a number of commissioners. As chair, I was always the last commissioner, and so there was such a redundancy that I often tried to be very brief.
Okay. Let's take a look at Exhibit 84. Do you think that because you were chair that the disclosure rules that applied to you as chair were different from the disclosure rules that applied to anyone else?
No.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 84. What did you mean at the end when you said the subject is the same and it was submitted to the staff but not within the time period to be posted? Do you know what that meant? Were you talking about your ex parte disclosure?
I think so. I think that's probably what it was. Yes, I feel pretty certain that that's what it was.
Do you know when you had the ex parte meeting with junior and senior masseurs niche?
I can't say with certainty, but it may well have been on the afternoon before the hearing. Sometimes these would be fairly informal, brief discussions, but I can't say with certainty. Sorry.
So what did you mean the subject is the same?
Oh, that refers to the fact that, as I said, many commissioners who had repeat presentations, same people representing would present, and then the commissioners would repeat what they had heard, and often would say, and the same as one of the earlier commissioners who had given a detailed description. I recognize that, yeah, so that's what that was
Okay,
referring to.
let's take a look at 85. 85 refers to an ex parte on December 12th, but the disclosure was in January of 2015. So was the ex parte on December 12th of 2014?
I believe so, yes.
It states that your ex parte was on file, correct?
Yes,
Did you do anything to confirm that your ex parte was on file?
I did not.
Do you know whether your ex parte was in fact in the official record for the project?
I believe that it was, yes.
Do you have any evidence confirming that it was?
No.
Okay. Take a look at 86. It refers to an ex parte on March 3rd. Would that be March 3rd of 2015?
It likely would have been.
Did you have a written ex parte disclosure on file for this?
I do not know if I did on that one. I can't be certain one way or the other.
You can't what?
I cannot be certain one way or the other.
Okay. Take a look at 87. It states that you had an ex parte on April 9th. Would that be in the year 2015?
Yes.
What did Sarah tell you about the project during that ex parte?
You know, she primarily just said that she supported the staff's recommendation. It was a very brief call.
You also stated that you discussed the project briefly, right?
I said that, but my recollection is that Sarah Wan, when she would call, would say, I wanted to weigh in with you, ask if you had any questions, and we support the staff's recommendation. I would say thank you. Or she would, you know, there would be occasions when she would not say that, but when she would say that, or when any applicant would or representative would say that, we would have, you know, if somebody referred the staff's recommendation and either said they were in agreement or disagreement, that was usually the substance and the extent of it.
Do you know whether you did a written ex parte disclosure for the...
I do not.
Hang on, let me finish the question. Do you know whether you did a written ex parte disclosure for the ex parte communication reflected in Exhibit 87?
I do not.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 88. It states that you had an ex parte on April 29th. Would that have been in the year 2015?
Yes.
Do you know whether you did a written disclosure for this ex parte communication?
I do not recall. Let's see. I don't recall.
Okay, take a look at 89. It states that there was an ex parte on June 1st. Would that be of the year 2015?
It would have been.
Do you know whether you did a written disclosure for that ex parte communication?
I don't know for certain.
Do you have any evidence indicating that you did a written ex parte disclosure for that conversation?
At this time, I do not have any documentation.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 90. It states that you had an ex parte on July 16th, then a couple on August 10th, perhaps 3 on August 10th. Would those have been in the year 2015?
Yes.
Do you know whether you did a written disclosure for the July 16th ex parte communication?
I believe that I did, yes.
It states that your ex partes are on file, correct?
It does.
Did you do anything to confirm that your ex partes... Let me finish the question. Did you do anything to confirm that your ex parte disclosure was on file for the July 16th ex parte communication?
No.
Do you have any evidence to indicate that your written disclosure was put into the official record for that project?
No.
Take a good look at Exhibit 91. It states that there was an ex parte on August 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know whether that ex parte was on, sorry, Was that in the year 2015?
I believe it was.
It states that your ex partes were on file, correct?
Yes.
Did you do anything to confirm that your ex partes for that communication were in the official record for the project?
No.
Do you know whether your ex parte for that, whether your disclosure for that ex parte was in fact in the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 92. It states that you had an ex parte on August 4th. Would that have been in the year 2015?
I believe so.
It states that you submitted your ex parte on August 4th, right?
Yes.
Do you know the date of the ex parte communication? That you're-
No.
So you don't see in this disclosure where you're identifying the date of the ex parte, is that correct?
Well, it's hard for me to know whether I was saying that I filed it on August 4th or I filed an ex parte from a meeting on August 4th, but I was clear that I had filed my ex parte.
Okay. Did you do anything to confirm that your...
No. Oops, excuse me.
Did you do anything to confirm that your ex parte disclosure was in the official record for this project?
No.
Do you know whether it was ever put into the official record for this project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 93, please. It states that you had an ex parte during a field visit on July 9th. Would that be in the year 2015?
Yes.
Do you know whether you did a written ex parte for that communication?
I believe that I did.
Did you do anything to make sure it was in the official record for the project?
No.
Do you know whether you submitted the ex parte disclosure within 7 days of July 9th?
I believe that I did. Yes. I can't say with certainty, but I believe that I did.
Is it equally possible that you did not submit your written ex parte disclosure for that communication within 7 days?
It could be possible that I didn't. I can't recall when I submitted it.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 94. It states that there was an ex parte on September 28th. Would that have been in the year 2015?
Yes.
Did you do anything to confirm that your ex parte was on file in the official record for the project?
No.
Do you know whether in fact your ex parte was in the official record for the project at the time of the hearing?
No.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 95. It states that you had two ex partes, one on September 28 and one on October 2. Were those both in the year 2015?
I believe they were.
In the first paragraph, you state, and there does seem to be some discrepancy between what was reported, what others reported, and the differences the staff has pointed out. So that will be important for us to clarify. Do you know what discrepancies you were talking about?
Let's see. Pond Beach. No, I don't. And I don't know where Tehran is either.
Okay. Do you know whether you actually did a written ex parte disclosure for the September 28th communication?
I can't say with certainty.
Do you know whether any written disclosure ever made it into the official record for this project?
No, I don't know.
Take a look at Exhibit 96. It states that you had a conversation on the 26th. It doesn't state the month or the year. Do you know the month or the year of that conversation?
I imagine that it would have been in October of 2015, but I don't know for certain.
Okay. Did you do a written disclosure for that ex parte communication?
I don't know the answer to that.
Did you ever do anything to verify whether the official record for the project included a written disclosure for that ex
No.
parte? Did you ever do anything to confirm that the official record for that project included a written disclosure for that ex parte communication?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 97. It states that you had an ex parte on October 26th. Would that have been of the year 2015?
Yes.
Do you know whether, it also states that your ex partes are on file, correct?
It does.
Did you do anything to verify that your written disclosures were on file?
No.
Do you know whether, sorry, did you want to add?
Okay. No, I don't want to add anything.
Okay. Did you ever do anything to verify whether your written disclosures made it into the official record for that project?
No.
Do you know whether any written disclosures for that ex parte communication that you had made it into the official record for the project?
No.
Take a look at Exhibit 98. It states that you had 2 ex parte communications, but it doesn't state when. Do you know when those ex parte communications occurred?
I believe that the ex parte occurred months before that in a field trip that I took with several other commissioners. I would say that yeah, I can't say, but it may have been as much as a year before, but I do remember filing the ex parte on the field trip.
Okay, did you do 2 written ex parte disclosures for this project?
I said that I did, so I'm pretty sure that I did.
Did you ever do anything to verify whether your written disclosures made it into the official record for the project?
No.
Do you know whether your written disclosures, if any, made it into the official record for this project?
I do not, no.
Take a look at Exhibit 99. It states that you had an ex parte on Wednesday, December 2nd, correct?
Yeah.
Was that of the year 2015?
Yes.
Did you do a written disclosure for this ex parte communication?
I don't believe that I did. I think I don't believe that I did.
Okay. Sorry, you just said you don't think you did a written disclosure for this ex parte?
I think that I did not.
Okay. Is there a reason why you didn't do one within 7 days?
Yeah, the reason was that I forgot to. I had the meeting that I was having with the mayor and Sam Schuckett of the Coastal Conservancy was completely unrelated to any Coastal Commission business, and it was only at the dinner that Mr. Burnett, Mayor Burnett, spoke to me. Suddenly, just spoke about how he felt about propane as a cool way of having a fire on the beach, and given the social setting that I was in, I simply forgot it until we had the hearing sometime later.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be on the record.
Okay. Take a look at Exhibit 100. States that you had an ex parte on April 4th. Would that have been in the year 2016?
Yes.
Did you do a written disclosure for this ex parte?
I don't believe that I did.
Okay. Is there a reason you didn't do a written disclosure since your oral disclosure was more than 7 days after the conversation?
I think it was, the nature was not specific to the project that they were seeking, but it was a broader conversation about the state of state parks.
So why did you think you needed to disclose it orally if you didn't need to disclose it in writing?
It's a good question. I don't know why I did it. I think I did it because the same person, Lisa Mangat, was representing the state parks before the Coastal Commission on a matter. But it really was broader information that she was discussing with me. So it was probably unwarranted to have an ex parte on this one.
Let's go off the record briefly.
We are off the record. The time is 3:32. We are back on the record. The time is 3:33.
So with the exception of the issues that we flagged this morning, I don't have any more questions for the witness. I would propose the following stipulation: that we relieve the court reporter of her duties under the code, that the original of the transcript be sent to Mr. Jacobs' office so that the witness can review, correct, and sign the transcript under penalty of perjury. The witness will have 30 days from the delivery of the transcript to Mr. Jacobs to do the review and make the changes and sign it and communicate those changes to my office. For all purposes of this proceeding, a certified copy, as augmented by any notified changes, as well as the fact of signing, may be used in lieu of an original. Is that okay?
Yes.
If for some reason we need the original, you'll retain it and produce it upon reasonable prior notice?
Yes.
Okay. So stipulated, we're done.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
This concludes today's videotaped deposition of Steve Kinsey on October 10th, 2017. We're off the record at 3:34.
And counsel, would you like?